Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Got a great broadcast lineup for you this morning, as I hope and I pray that we always do. I'm not important, just a question asker. I'm just a question asker. My name is Raheen out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I want to let you know that the phone lines are open. You could give us a call at 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Had to adjust my headset, like my head got a little, like I got an old square head or something. I don't know what the word, like I'm what's that, square pants, SpongeBob SquarePants, whatever they do name it. Like I had a square head, man. I had to adjust my headphones like they about to drop off the back of my head, man. That wasn't right. That wasn't right. Somebody tell me that wasn't right. And again, good morning, everybody. And like I said, the phone lines are open 508-924-3521. Y'all know I ain't got any sense. I want to ask y'all a question this morning. We got a couple of topics we're going to talk about today. We're going to cover today. But I want to ask this question. Parents, parents, parents that have more than one child, 2, 3, or more children, do you find, and help me understand, because I see this a lot. I actually think I did it myself. I have 4 daughters, and I think I did it myself. Are we harder? Are we tougher? Are we more stricter, if that's such a word, on our firstborn? Maybe even our secondborn? And then when we get down to like the third or maybe the fourth child or however many you have, we ain't judging nobody. Have as many children that you could take care of as you could take care of. But my thing is, are we harder? Do we find ourselves harder on the first one? Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do that. Pick up behind yourself. Don't do this. La, 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 la. Are we really that way? And then after we have the second one, ease. We may ease up just a little bit, just a little bit. But as we have more children, y'all bear with me. Y'all know I'm multitasking. And as we have more children, do we tend to ease up a little bit? Do we tend to be a little softer? Do we loosen up the rings? The ring, I had to say the rings. I think that's what they call it, the rings. Do we loosen up on the rings just a little bit? Toussaint, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning? I see Toussaint over there, but I think he's having some issues with his system this morning. I think he may be having some issues with his system. Toussaint, are you there? And again, the phone lines are open. I want to hear from everybody. Oh, if you got if you got parents, Lord, if you have children, and more than one, were you harder on that? If you look back, if you really look back, were you harder on that first one than you were any of them? That's your first child. That's the first. There you go. Oh, we lost him again. We lost him. Hold it. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him back in just a second. But Toussaint is trying to make his way in, and I want to hear his heart on this as well. Because Toussaint have like me. I got, like I said, I have 4 daughters. I have 4 of the most beautiful daughters you'll ever see in your life. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm proud. High and a happy elephant elated and porcupine proud of my 4 daughters, of my 4 babies. They grown and gone now, but they still my babies. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. And so I know that my first one, I was a little tough on my first daughter. She's very responsible. Got kids of her own, my two of my grandchildren. She's married and doing real good for herself. But I know, man, it was tough on her. And then her sister started coming, and then I started putting all this responsibility on her because quote unquote, she's the first one. She's the first child, so she should have a little more responsibility. She should be a little more responsible because she's the first one. Is that always the case? Or do we just thrust that on our children? You're the first one, you should be more responsible. You're the first one, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. Maybe your second, third, or your fourth child, or whatever. Like I said again, however many you have, maybe one of them is more responsible than the firstborn. But a lot of times, what happens is you the firstborn. You should know better. You the oldest. You should know better. You set the foundation for the rest of them. What if they don't have it? What if they don't have it? You're gonna allow the firstborn to lead the rest of them in a ditch? You allow your firstborn to lead the rest of them into a ditch if their firstborn don't have it. Toussaint, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Man, I'm good. I'm having technical difficulties this morning.
I saw you struggling. How they say it, struggling over there. I saw you not struggling. I saw you
Looking,
struggling.
looking crazy.
look, look. Well, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. But Toussaint, we're talking about children. And like I said, I have four beautiful daughters, man. And I'm very proud, having a happy elephant related and porcupine proud of each and every one of them. Yes, Lord.
Mm.
But Toussaint, if a person that has more than one child, two, three, four, however many they can take care of, children, are we always the toughest on that firstborn? And why?
Well, I got my oldest is my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I got four boys, and I think I'm toughest on the oldest boy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he but he always was. I think he always was. He fooled me along the way because I think he always just did what he was supposed to be doing as best he could,
Yeah. Yeah.
as best he could.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, my daughter, because she's a daughter, I think that she just was, daughters get what they want, what
Yeah.
they want out their daddy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's just it. I mean, that's just me. I think I was hard on. I think I was hard on all of them. I don't know if we call it hard. You know what they got for Christmas?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you when you have your first child, that's your jewel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably the prized possession. Would
But
say.
do we polish it too hard, or do we hold on to it and squeeze it too tight, or polish it too hard because it's the first one?
Yeah, no, not too hard. I don't think. Sometimes you might, but they supposed to look out for the rest of them. That one supposed to.
See, and that's the part I was talking about before you came on. What if not just me talking or just me thinking out loud? Sometimes, like you see, I get in that recliner and I lean back. I say, "Oh, now hold on," and I think about some things. Now, Toussaint, what if that firstborn is not the most responsible of all the other ones that you have, but because of the fact they're the firstborn, we say you're the oldest. You should know better. What if they don't? What if your second, third, or fourth child, or whatever child it is much more responsible than that first one? Do you
You,
allow
did-
that
you
first one to?
well, you can't. You have to make that call. I mean, really, you have to make that adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Say, what at what age would you find that out?
Mm-hmm.
You hear what I'm saying? There have to be a accountable age to
Hmm.
even find that out.
But how
A
much
lot-
damage could be done in that process, though, while you're waiting and while you're
Oh well,
gauging the
that's your responsibility.
situation?
That's for you to do.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
some kids, no matter what you tell them, they try to do the opposite.
Yeah.
So along the way, you got to make those, you know, try to give them that direction. Look, no, okay, good. Kind of, the good and the bad that they do, the encouragement they need along the way. It's the parents' job to do that.
Hmm.
You can't
Hmm.
you can't let a child. You know how what you said the other topic was Monday and Friday. Uh, you you
It's easier to build a strong child than to
Yeah,
rebuild
you
a broken
build,
man.
you build that child. That's your
Hmm.
job. You
Hmm.
build them from the time that they first born, or really in the womb, until whatever that they start walking and talking, and you. That's your job to
Hmm.
kind of do. And I know we live in a society that it always, we make our own decisions
Yes.
because we stiff necked
Hmm.
and stubborn, and we wind up with families that don't stick together,
Hmm.
and then the child has to. But at in a normal sense, I say normal. There's no such thing as normal these days.
Yeah,
It's just not.
absolutely.
It's not.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Uh, but as you have children, it's your job to watch them and notice their qualities and their faults and their failures, and
Hmm.
you guide them. You
Hmm.
build them. You when they make the mistakes, it's your job to step in and say, "Okay, all right, you know, what you gonna do about that?" Because every
Hmm.
mistake, or what we call it mistake, everything that you do has consequences.
Yeah.
But as a parent, it's your job
Hmm.
to implant in what that child needs to even overcome the errors they make, because they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna make them.
And see, with that being said, Tucson, that's pretty much where I was going as well. Because in that process, you're gauging your children, and you normally, and I'm just gonna say it that way. A person, we don't bring badge into the conversation as well, but normally a person would lean toward that firstborn. You older, you've been here longer, you've been around me longer. You see how I do things. You see how, so you should know. But sometimes people get in at different paces and different stages, and so you're doing this, and you're allowing that, you're trying to build that firstborn up to be the responsible person that we know that they are. But they don't always get it, and so in the process, you giving that firstborn responsibilities. Make sure that this is done. Make sure this is done. Make sure this is done. You come home, it ain't nothing done. They sitting around playing, running, and having a good time. Tucson, how you see where I'm going? How
Yeah.
many times, and then you go to your second or your third born, and you say, man, what y'all been doing? You ask everybody what y'all been doing, and your second born said, well, old Charlie over there, he was running around, he was playing, blase blase. Daddy, I tried to tell him, but he wouldn't listen to me. I told him what you wanted me to, that you wanted us to do this, and he said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of that later. That
Mm,
in, later never came, and now you're
mm.
here and it's not done. How
Boy,
many
I tell
times?
you what, they couldn't have been when we was coming up. Now, uh, my oldest sister is 16 years older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it wasn't no question about whether I was going to listen.
Yeah,
When Mama
yeah.
them left the house, I knew that now at that point when I got old enough to do some stuff, she was gone. My oldest brother was gone. He
Mm-hmm.
was already in the Navy when I was 5, maybe 6. I don't know. He was already gone to the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
So that left the third oldest. So and in our I'm number 12, man.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So
Hmm.
so that's how that worked. So let's go a
You the
little bit down
you
the
the
line.
youngest too, right? You're the youngest, right?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but let's go a little further. You got the first four kids out of the house. They even either in college or they gone, married.
Uh-huh.
By the time I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got the second set of the kids. I call it the second set of kids because you got the youngest 4 or 5 or 6 kids in the house. Let's see, one, two,
Mm-hmm.
three, 4, 5. Yeah, in the house. Now, when mom and them left, and I'll shut up because I got to get ready for therapy myself. Um, says Larry, you in charge.
Mm-hmm.
No ifs, ands, or but about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry that some things happened to him along afterwards. But when
Mm-hmm.
Larry would say something, Larry would, excuse me, he take care of everybody in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Now Linda, my sister, the oldest, the baby girl, by that time, the baby girl was the oldest one uh, under Larry. That those two would be the ones that Mama them said, okay, y'all make sure everything done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by that time, you got a age group of six. You got 5 kids with about 8 years between me and them, the oldest
Mm-hmm.
and me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
all right. But if Larry said something, it wouldn't be good for me.
Mm-hmm.
If Linda said something,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be too good. And
Yeah.
Nate, Gerald, me, my Gerald, me, he was 2 years older than I am,
Mm-hmm.
and but he was shorter than I was. He
Uh-huh.
didn't like that. But in our house, we was told that you listen to your older brothers and sisters, and they was
Mm-hmm.
held accountable. And when Dad them got back, they wouldn't come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was good.
Yeah. 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 You're safe.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about that. Now, if I didn't listen to them, consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's in our household. I don't know about
Mm-hmm.
nobody else's household.
That's good. That's good. Badger, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. Another beautiful day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're talking about children and people that has see your kids are still young, and so you actually going through that process right now. But I'm sure you've seen other situations, and maybe you've seen some of it, but other situations, man, whereas more responsibility is always placed, typically placed on that firstborn. So are we as parents? I got 4 daughters, and I know I did it. I put more responsibility on my firstborn. I say, and she's very responsible. She really is. It worked out in a positive way, but sometimes not so much. So I'm saying that, and I asked the question: do we put too much responsibility on that firstborn and loosen up a little bit, loosen up the grip after we have our second, third, or the fourth child, or however many you can take care of? And I say it in that way because to make sure that you don't have more than what you can take care of. But my
Yeah.
question is, are we tougher, a lot of time tougher, place more responsibility and more pressure on that firstborn? What do you say to that, Badger?
From what I've seen, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And I know a lot of the firstborns end up being, not all of them, but I've come across quite a few, myself included, that it was not a fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
Anything happened to the younger ones, boy, we got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And irregardless if they listened or not,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Wow.
But that probably is more common in toxic households and not positive households.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, now mine, I don't run mine like that. So, because they're also close in age as well. So,
Yeah. That's what I was
but
saying. Yeah. They're close in age. Yeah.
there's also mental health things going on as well. So,
Mhm.
um, and to me, that's another factor of there's a lot of the firstborns that end up having having struggles that don't ever get found out because there's so much pressure or stress put onto them to perform in a certain way.
Mhm.
And it's so there's I think at a certain age, like, hey, would you help me watch your sister or brother, for a couple of minutes while I just run to the bathroom or something,
Mhm.
that's one thing. Now, I would not expect a 14 or 16-year-old to watch a whole bunch of kids.
Mhm.
I think that's a bit too much because to me they're still growing. So I just have different aspects to things of that nature because I can see how it can build responsibility to a degree, but it can also affect them in many different ways.
Mhm.
So
And,
you're gonna
I'm gonna take, yeah, and to your point, or I don't necessarily counting your point, but other side of the coin is this right here. A lot of times, parents, especially if they're a single parent, sometimes even two family households, the parents have to work. They have to work, and they have to go to work and make the money to quote unquote pay the bills, food on the table. You know the saying, how they say it. And so, in order, and if they got two or three kids, a lot of time they'll put their responsibility on that oldest or that firstborn child, be it male or female, because they got to go to work. They have to go to work, and they have to go out there and make the money to make sure everything is taken care of and everybody is taken care of. And so in that process, they tend to put responsibility. It could be 14, 15, 16-year old child, because it's still a child. You put those responsibilities on them and say, look here, make sure this is done, make sure they don't let nobody in this house, make sure all these things are done, make sure all these things are taken care of because I have to go to work. So make sure you do it and walk out the door. So,
mm,
in the real scheme of things, man, a lot of times these responsibilities are placed on these kids because the parents have to go to work
yeah,
and they
no,
have to make their money.
no, I agree with that, and that's it. Like that's a really good point, and it's very unfortunate that that's a s- that is the situation that's become very common nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
you know, unless one parent is gets that really good, well-paying job, you know, it's kind of the situation of it's either the single parent or both parents are having to work because of
Mm-hmm.
you know everything is to be able to survive and feed everybody and all that stuff.
It's tight. It's
Yeah.
tight sometimes. Man. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, a lot of them kids are having their childhood robbed from them because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, we want to. You got to focus on school. All right. Well, I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna study. You don't have time to study. You got to watch the kids. You got to watch your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think about how, like, to me, I know there are some that are able to, that at least come across as able to handle it. And then there are those that they seek help when they get older.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, when we thrust those responsibilities on our children, and because of the fact that it's a necessity, it really is a necessity. In some situations, it's a necessity. But always, Badger, are we being fair to our children?
Man, I don't want to say it, but I don't think we are. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we're being fair to our kids in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's that's why I posted what I posted because we got to do something,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I don't looking at man. I don't want to stray too far from this topic because
Mm-hmm.
I was crying yesterday during that meeting I told you I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's a lot going on.
Yeah. 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 Let me go to Tucson. Tucson, what's on your heart, brother? Are we being fair to our children when we do these things? And it's out of necessity, brother. Sometimes it's out of necessity. The parents got to go to work. They got to go to work, and so somebody have
Yeah.
to take responsibilities.
So
So are we being fair to our children?
yeah, I think so. I really think. I think so. I think so. More so now. I think I don't have young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God I don't have it in society.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the world that they living in, you need to prepare them to take care of themselves as early as possible.
Wow.
That's just me.
What
As
even
early,
even
they
with
need
that,
to be making beds at 5.
see, even with that, Tucson, and I'm gonna ask this question, even with that, what happens to the childhood? What happened to their childhood, man? Because are we, like Badger said,
Let them
are we
have
robbing them?
fun. No, let them have fun. Let them be kids, but teach them. Teach them. I'm talking about teach them how to dress themselves, groom themselves, brush their teeth, comb their hair, wipe their. Teach them all of that, but let them go out and play.
Mm-hmm.
But teach them responsibility at an early age, because by time they can have a child at 12 if they do the wrong thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
can't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as early as whatever age of we say accountability is 12, they need to know something.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be sharp. They need to be heading in the direction. They probably in upper elementary or going to high school, and by that time they need to be groomed for the world.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because when they get to 12th grade, it's too late. I'm telling you, man. Look, you gotta.
But how many
I think
steps?
that if we jump.
How many steps are we leaving out in our children in the process between being a child and being an adult? How many steps are we skipping in that process?
I think that just me. I'm just rethinking this thing. Thank God I don't have to do it. I got to be lonely, man. I think that you need from the age of 1 to 12, they need to be on it.
Mm.
And then from 12 to 15, stop them from playing games. Not stop them. Listen, I mean, yeah, I said stop them.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I'm saying. Guide them
Mm-hmm.
into being a teenager and the responsibilities that they need as a teenager to be able to function. Watch this. Watch them. Like you say, don't let nobody in this house. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't talk to strangers type thing.
Yeah.
Go play outside, but don't leave this yard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? When you go somewhere, don't you veer off.
Mm-hmm.
Grab them by the hand, hold their hand, whatever you got to do. But by 12, if they veer off, you need to let them know you need to find your way back. You need to be able to find your way back. No north, south, east, and west.
Mm-hmm.
Watch your surroundings. Be careful. Watch your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Be respectful. Don't let nobody play you now.
Mm-hmm.
Guide them into the point where, okay, now you all these little steps, because you see how kids are now. We making mistakes by, okay, you saw a 2-year-old with a cell phone? You ever saw that?
Yes.
So what can they not do? There's nothing impossible for these kids. They sharp, they smart, they wise.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they got some handicaps or something like that, that can be worked with. Meet the kid where they are, because it's necessary in the society. And when they get 15, They need to be acting like a don't you man look. Don't act like no child.
Mm-hmm.
Quit playing these games. Stop it. Stop it.
But-
you need to get yourself together.
But
What are you
15
gonna-
Tucson.
What do you want to do?
But 15, they're not adults.
I know it. But they just about got about 3 years left.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. Thank God I ain't got them.
But what
But
about
I
what
got
about the
access
maturity?
to some kids.
What about the maturity and the level of maturity? Because a person goes through maturity, and boys and girls mature at different ages and at
Yeah.
different times. And so, what about the level of maturity?
That's where adults come in. That's where adults come in. Put them in the right atmosphere. Because we let them choose their atmosphere. And then we say, oops, they got the wrong friends. Man,
Mhm.
my son didn't have the wrong friends. What are y'all doing? Because when he was in high school, his cousins and friends would come by the house and they parked in the front of y'all because by that time they can drive.
Mm-hmm.
So what are y'all doing? Oh, we just chilling? No, y'all can't chill here. No, sir.
Yeah.
He can't chill with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not here. Not him. Because he
Mhm.
was the oldest one.
Yeah.
He can't chill. No, son, you can't chill.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you chill, you and your friends wind up in trouble and I gotta pick you up. No.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. No. Y'all go on.
Mm-hmm.
You go find you a job or something. Go do something constructive.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I let you chill, then I'm hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil is a lie.
Wow.
That's just me.
Okay, good deal. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Captain Leonard, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Raheem, and the Morning Glow family.
Oh, voice let you down there for a second, didn't it?
What'd you say?
I said, oh, voice let you down there for a second. I heard you, brother. I heard you this morning. Hey, Leonard, man, you know I got to be silly. But listen, man, we're talking about children. And see, it may be a little different for you as well because, you know, there's a gap in your children. But if a person I have 4 daughters all around the same age. And I put more I know I did. I know, looking back in hindsight, I know I did. I put more responsibility on my firstborn. It's my firstborn daughter. And all my daughters are very responsible, but I put a lot of responsibilities on that first one. Do we as parents sometimes, or have you seen as parents, we put the responsibility on that firstborn, and then as we have the second, third, or however many we can take care of, and I keep saying it in that way because I want to make sure people only have the amount of kids they can take care of. Don't have all the kids, you can't take care of them. But my thing is this: the first one get all the responsibility, and then second, third, parents start to ease up a little bit. Are we so tight or stricter, if that's such a word, on that firstborn? And is that even fair to do that?
Well, it's definitely fair because you're first. And you're first for a reason. You know, there are some mistakes parents make with the first child that they don't make with the other children.
Mm-hmm.
The first child is a child where you learn
Mm-hmm.
with,
That's the tester.
and you get better at it by the next time.
so the first one is the tester. We're gonna test it out. We're gonna test it out on this one. And what we don't
Right.
do right, we're gonna make sure we don't do it. Yeah, and then that's true. But go ahead, Lynn. It's your time, brother. Go ahead. But that's true.
And it depends because the first child should know more than the second child
Why
because the first child has been around longer.
is that
So
always the
it
case though?
depends.
Truth of the matter is that always the case though?
Well, unless you got twins, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I
And,
don't.
and you know, you just do more, you learn more, you're developing differently.
Mhm.
You're on a whole different scale of development simply because you came first.
Okay, but let me ask you this: have you ever seen a situation whereas, wow, this is good. Have you ever seen a situation whereas the first child, the one that we put our responsibility on, just wasn't that responsible, and then the second or the third one was way more responsible than that firstborn ever was? Now, the first one was here
Yeah.
longer. The first one was here longer, but it just don't. He or she just don't have it, and so I had to lean on my second or my third or something like that because they're more responsible, and I could depend, I quote unquote, air quotes, depend on them more. Has that ever been a case?
Well, and also we consider, first of all, they don't come here that way.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever they've learned up to a certain point is a part of their personality.
Mm-hmm.
So how they choose to do things may be a little different,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean one way or the other that they should not be responsible. You should begin teaching responsibility as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if your child is with the first child is that way because the child is first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes when you have them closer together, that changes the dynamic of the relationship as well.
Yes, it does.
You know, if you got some people that got them like backdoor, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like say, for instance, every 10 months you having another baby, which is possible.
Mm-hmm. Very.
Yeah, it's very possible. A lot of people have them that way, like what they call them, right? Well, at least a year,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and apart they would call what stair steps.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's not a huge difference in development between the children when they're close together like that. So it's not like with mine, I have one 23 and one 15.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got 16, 17, 16, 15, 14, that's a whole different
Yeah.
group of dynamics because now you're dealing with a crowd of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And they go all have different personalities. Some of them going to be a little bit more athletic. Some of them going to be a little bit more rational. Some of them probably going to be a little bit more timid. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's just waiting for them personalities that develop, which really lets you know who is good at what, at this, that, or the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Let me ask you this question. Then we'll go to Badger. Excuse me. Excuse me. What a lot of times we spoke this morning on this topic talking about bills. The bills have to be paid. The parents, single parent, a two-parent house, or whatever the case, but they have to go to work and they have to leave somebody in charge while they're at work. Make sure this is done. Make sure this is done. Don't let nobody in this house. Don't in and out the refrigerator. Eat what it is we got. Allocated for you to eat and different things like that. Certain responsibilities. In that situation, do you think we could be putting too much responsibility on our children, and that we'll rob them of their childhood because we're putting them in a position, almost a situation of being an adult, because they have to take the responsibility of the household in the absence of the parents while they're at work? Are we being fair to our children during that situation? Because somebody got to be in charge. The house still got to run. Somebody got to call the shots. So are we being fair to our children?
Yeah, it's not that you're being unfair. It's just your lifestyle. Everybody don't. One thing I'm completely against is this notion that everybody got to do the same thing, the same way, and that's just not. That's irrational. Because people have different lives. People have different desired outcomes for how they live and things of that nature. So I don't, usually criticize how a person is doing something unless there is a problem. If a problem presents itself, that's an issue. But you need to be teaching personal responsibility from the womb.
Okay. Because Tucson was saying at a certain age they should be responsible. They should be able to do this and should be able to do that. But my question was, at what point are they able to be a child? Because if you put in
that they're going to be a child regardless. You don't control that. They're going to be a child. They're just going to be a child learning differently, being exposed to more things probably, because you got to remember, people say, a childhood. I had a pretty decent childhood, but that didn't mean it was being very irresponsible neither. I had to be a responsible child.
Wow.
I mean, your child develops to this point when they first come here, that's when they start, day one.
Wow. Let me go to
Some
Badger.
people had their children on a schedule by the time they 3 or 4 months old.
Wow. Well,
Sleeping schedule, eating
yeah,
schedules.
I do. I've seen that. I do agree with that. But Badger, you said earlier, before Leonard came on, you said that you don't think that is fair, and we're being very unfair to our children in a whole lot of different ways. Explain that to me.
Well, for me, if we put all the responsibility on one of them, because that was my understanding of what you were saying earlier,
Mm-hmm.
is just on the oldest. Yeah, I think that's not fair at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think, at certain ages, because I agree with what's being said. You start when they're young, teaching them to be responsible. As they get older, I would, or at least in my perception, you would hope by the time the child's 10 years old that they know not to put a fork in a light socket,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or, put your dishes in the sink, clean up after yourself to a decent degree, you know, not getting on the floor, cleaning the floor with a toothbrush, not that kind of stuff, but, you know, have some kind of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the 14-year-old's having to watch, the 8-year-old, the 8-year-old, also should have some concept of being responsible that's age appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Being respectful, don't jump on the couch, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ultimately, responsibility is in the hands of that 14-year-old, though, in the scenario that you presented.
if the 8-year, I would say to a degree, depending on what it is. You know, if if the 14-year-old just says, no, and just goes up to the room and does nothing, and the 8-year-old gets hurt,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I'm also going to hold the 8-year-old responsible for backflipping off the couch and getting hurt once we know the child's okay.
Badger, I think
So,
maybe in the course of the conversation, your view may have changed during the course of the conversation based on what either Toussaint or Leonard said, because you were saying that we were being very unfair to the children. Earlier you were saying we was being very unfair to the children, and we're being very unfair to them on a lot of different
well,
levels. And now you kind of change it up a little bit.
Donald, no, not really. Hearing the words that Donald was using, it made me realize I wasn't using certain vocabulary myself to make sure I
Mm-hmm.
was coming across clear.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a very important thing that was said about also making sure your child gets to have fun, to
Mm-hmm.
be a kid. So if it's only for a short time, like maybe, and hopefully not an everyday thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, teaching a child responsibility isn't unfair at all to me, because someone needs to make sure they know what responsibility is, because you can't really rely on public school to teach responsibility anymore.
If that corner, and let's deal
So,
with it from an angle of a single parent. If that single parent work 6 days a week, because they have to work 6 days a week in order to make the money that they need to make to pay the bill. So 6 days a week, the parent is out of the home. So let's stay with the 14-year-old. That 14-year-old have to make sure everything is done, make sure everything is worked out, make sure nobody's coming in the house is right. Everybody, get to bed at a certain time, washing all these different things, brush their teeth and all these things before they go to bed. They have to make sure all this stuff is done. Is
so
that too
you're
much?
essentially
Is that
saying,
hold on? Is that too much responsibility for a 14-year-old?
so I'm going to paint it in a different way to make sure I have the visual correct.
Mm-hmm.
So you're pretty much saying putting that 14-year-old in the role of a parent.
Basically,
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that.
but somebody got
I
to do it.
really don't. I understand that, but
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that takes a lot from that child,
Mm-hmm.
of being able to socialize in certain ways, possibly derail them from education. Now, some of them are able to still be successful, but a lot that I have met that had to play that role, it took them a lot longer to get on their feet
Mm-hmm. Wow.
because of dealing with different aspects of how it can affect the psyche of a child.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. See, that's where you were the first time. That's why I was wondering, because there was a little shift there, and I wanted to see, understand what that shift was.
Well, I
We
don't
got.
want anyone to think I don't think kids should learn responsibility because I
Mm-hmm.
do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We are.
I don't yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Go ahead. Finish your thought, brother.
But I do feel that there's a line. Asking your kids to, watch out for one another. That's community values,
Mm-hmm.
take care of your family, stuff like that. But to expect them to take the role of a parent, I think that's going too far.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Rico, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
I can't complain, man. I here enjoying another beautiful new day, man. How everybody doing?
Hey, doing good, doing good. Rico, what's on your heart behind this, man? And like I said, when you have a parent, have single parent, two parent, whatever the case, have more than one child, 2 or 3 children, say 3 or 4 children. Are we tougher? The firstborn, are we tougher on that firstborn, Rico? Do we expect more out of that firstborn, and they should take the responsibility because you're the oldest? You should know better. You should know how to do this. What if they don't? So are we unfair? Question is, are we unfair to that firstborn, and do we put too many responsibilities on that child to be that responsible person as the firstborn?
I mean, well, I don't know if this is a question that you was asking at first, so I'm gonna try to figure that out and try to make, well, I'm gonna just make it plain and simple. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got to dig too deep into that. That question is obviously, I'm not gonna say unfair, but it's just that's the way it is. I mean, you have a cause and effect, you have a reason and comprehension and logic to things, and you can't expect a parent to know how to be a parent if they haven't been a parent before.
Mm-hmm.
So that child is like what you said before, and what I done said 1,000 times before in the past. That child is pretty much the experiment. I don't want to call it experiment, but that's the dry run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The rough draft.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear all day long, and then even as a youth, you could do enough babysitting and watching your younger siblings to think you know what it takes. But then it's another story when the financial end comes in, and you got to start paying for the daycare. See, when you were young, taking care of your brothers and sisters, you were the daycare.
Yeah, yeah.
But now, if you ain't got no younger brothers and with your children, you don't have them for the daycare. You got to find somebody, and mama and daddy might not be the ones to look out for you. All grandparents aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have to come up with those fees, and it could be very expensive finding a babysitter. And then it can also be risky because you don't want them babysitters to be selling dope out the home or touching on children.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want them to have children of their own that's just taking advantage of the children, having a free for all you can eat. We got a daycare full of little children, and the daycare and the babysitters, they can't really watch all of them. They just in it for the money. I think when you start talking about our parents, fair, because I think that's what you asked earlier about the parents, depending on children like that.
Yes.
And are they fair for having so many? And I'm going to say this. I don't want to say it's the parents that's unfair. I'm going to say it's the conditions in the system that society lives under that's unfair. See, right now you have a requirement to survive. You have a requirement to achieve a cost of living. And in 1944, they came up with that term, latchkey children. That's children that had to come home to households that didn't have parents in them for maybe 3 or more hours, maybe even 3 or less hours, because the parents had to work. They had to get out here and make that money that man created to attain a cost of living that man created to survive.
Yeah.
So now what we might have to do, we might have to work 1 or 2 jobs. But see, there's this thing called latchkey children syndrome. And along with that latchkey children syndrome, they also have different symptoms that come with children. Like they said that most children can probably cope with being alone 3 hours out or more out of the day without supervision. But what studies, keyword I said, what studies found were that most children that were alone for more than 3 hours suffer for more from low self-esteem, low education efficacy. They suffer from depression. And we know what all those things lead to when you're depressed.
Mm-hmm.
You got all this pressure on you to take care of the children. And I mean, let's talk about the other side of it too. The diets go upside down because now they have to learn how to eat little nasty things like ramen noodles and bad little hot dogs. You know, they have to learn how to cook for themselves. Ooh, my baby know how to cook already.
Mm-hmm.
Boiling them under unhealthy hot dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole diet is built around noodles. Now when you get home and you ain't got enough time to cook because it's getting late and you need to get them ready for bed and get them their baths and you need to try to help them with their homework so they already ate. And that's their normal diet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know what good food is anymore. So it's a lot of repercussions behind this system that we have conformed to survive in and trying to chase this American dream. We have been manipulated to sacrificing our priorities, or almost say being distorted to having the rights that God gave us to survive and take care of our offspring, to the requirements and the qualifications of man to say you can only do this to have access to this.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't make but this much money, or if you don't pay this, then you can't have electricity. You can't have a roof over your head. So I don't want to say it's the parents' fault. I want to say it's the fault of society that we live in, the conditions of the system that we live in, that has us paying a cost to live.
Good deal. Let me go.
Man-made cost.
Exactly. Toussaint, what's on your heart, brother? We got a lot going on right now, and I'm loving it. What's on your heart, Toussaint?
I'm gonna throw two classes out there that we had in junior high: home economics and industrial arts.
Mm-hmm.
What were they for?
Mm-hmm.
They was kind of like setting you up to take care of certain things. I forgot what was home economics, but I knew what industrial arts was. I remember that because they'll make you build a building.
Yeah.
As a class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about with electricity too.
Yeah.
And plumbing. Mm-hmm. That's what they was doing. Shaping you at what age? 14, 13, 15? To function.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case. Oh man, I don't know about what Dad did do. I don't know how we wind up in them fields. In our day, picking, corn and peas and beans and watermelon and baling hay and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a discredit or how you say that. It's unfair to the children if you show them certain things that they're going to need later on in life, sooner or later, and the sooner the better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the thing. How long is recess? How long was recess? You remember? 30 minutes?
About 30, 40 minutes, yeah. 30, 40 minutes, something like
that. At the most.
Mm-hmm.
The rest wasn't playing, even in school. So, you can't play all your life. You've been playing. Remember how the saying, you play too much.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that's all you've been doing all day? Oh, I was outside and we was playing. You mean to tell me I told you to wash your dishes? You need to be able to, if you can reach the sink, you ought to be able to wash the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
You eating? And it's not necessarily teaching the child or giving the child the responsibilities of a parent, but he ought to have responsibilities of an older brother or sister.
Mm-hmm.
Because sooner or later, unfortunately, if you go into work, somebody's gonna have to change that child diaper.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
you're gonna have to teach them certain things so that you won't have problems in your household.
And see,
You get what I said just now.
exactly, and that's a part of where I'm coming from with this thing, man. Are we putting? It's a lot of responsibilities that we're putting on these young people. It's a lot of responsibilities. Yeah, they have to learn, and you're absolutely right. They can't play all the time. They, and nobody should expect for them to play all the time. But at the same time, do we rob them of their childhood by putting all these adult responsibilities on them? Do we rob them of their childhood? Or are we robbing them of their childhood by putting all these adult responsibilities on Tucson? What do you say to that? Leonard, come to you next.
I don't think it's. I keep saying, and I don't know if I'm wrong. I don't think it's adult responsibility as a person, because I had a thought when you said that. But see, you can't afford to hire. Maybe you can hire a babysitter. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you got a kinfolk that can come by and they're not going to the job, or maybe the grandmother will keep the child for a while. I don't know. No, depends on what your situation is.
Mm-hmm.
But if your situation is you don't have a grandparent, or you can't afford a nanny, or whatever you want to call a babysitter, then something's gonna have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And see, when back in the day, people had kids for a reason.
Yeah.
Somebody had to go out there and milk that cow.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had to help plow that field. Guess who that was? Little Johnny.
Mm.
And kids were tough. I'm talking about they'll flip a calf over
Mm-hmm.
at 8.
Wow.
Now, we want them to play all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a game, give them a cell phone, give them an iPad, and they 5. But they don't know the things that they necessarily need to function. This is a dangerous society, and I think we're not doing enough.
Mm. Okay.
I think we're doing too much of something that we shouldn't be doing.
Do you think we're pacifying?
Doing that well?
So you think we're pacifying the kids too much?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
I really do. What in the heck do I need a cell phone for at 3? What I need that for? You know what? You know how much a cell phone is?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you got 4 kids, and each one of them got a cell phone, and none of them in high school.
Mm.
None of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they flunking.
Well, see,
They
that
call
goes
you
to
from school because they got a problem.
that goes to a reward system, and how are we rewarding our children? And we certainly not going to reward them for doing bad or not doing well. We're not going to reward them. But at the same time, that I think that's a little I think that's a little different than the responsibility element that we're talking about right now. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tucson, I'll finish your thought. Leonard, come to you next. Tucson, finish your thought, brother.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Leonard, what do you say to that?
Well, one, I don't think it's unfair, like I said before.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm more into teaching people and helping people learn based on where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of the whole kid thing.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't but a kid that long in the first place. So the goal is to grow up, not stay where you at.
Mm-hmm.
So each step is a learning step to teach balance. No, you don't work all the time, but you don't play all the time neither.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you shouldn't be paying bills in the house. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
That's a parent's responsibility to provide that.
But isn't it a parent's responsibility to take care of the kids too?
One, Say that again.
Isn't it a parent's responsibility to take care of his or her children too? And you shouldn't thrust that responsibility onto a child because they was born first or because they're the oldest.
Well, your responsibility is to provide. It's not the child's responsibility to provide.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different question. However, you should begin teaching children personal responsibility and shaping them to be responsible for their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
If I give you a task, that's all it is. It's a task.
Mm-hmm.
It's a task for you until I get back. Now, why you wouldn't teach early on things like taking care of those who can't take care of themselves?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps them. Most likely, when you look at actual data and statistics, firstborn children have different characteristics sometimes than lastborn children.
Mm-hmm.
More of them characterized by type A personalities. Why? Because they've been in a leadership role a lot longer.
They've been thrust
So they
into
become better leaders a lot of times.
they've been thrust into that position. I don't think that's necessarily something they was born with. I think they was thrust in that responsibility. Well, they was thrust in that lane because the responsibility required them to be in that lane. And you said something else. You said,
If I know how to sit at the table, properly,
mm-hmm.
I should teach my younger brothers and sisters to do the same.
But one thing that you said, Leonard, and I want to concentrate on this part a little bit. You said personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is one thing, but when you're talking about having to take care of other people, that's no longer personal responsibility. That's responsibility of the tribe, if you will. And so,
right. That's why there are different types of responsibility,
mm-hmm.
and the responsibility we're talking about is related to tasks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have a responsibility for a particular task.
Mm-hmm.
That task may be making sure the dishes are clean.
Mm-hmm. Let me say this.
You ate, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And let me say this. I don't want to come across as if I'm certain of this, because I did it too. I did it too. And that's why I'm able to say this, because I put more responsibility on my oldest daughter. I put a lot of responsibility on her because she was the oldest. So I don't want to seem this holier than thou, right? No. I did it. But now I can look back and recognize what I did. And so I don't want nobody to think that, well, Raheem, you know, I don't think I'm nothing. I'm no better than nobody else, man. I made the mistake too. I did it. I put that responsibility on my oldest daughter. I did. And baby, you should be able to do this. You're the oldest. You should know better. Blah, 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 and all the verbiage that goes along with it. I spoke that verbiage. I did.
Well,
I did that.
Well, you're assuming that, like, about yourself,
mm-hmm.
that you were wrong for doing that.
No,
I don't know what you did.
No, it's not.
So
that,
I wouldn't judge that way.
It's not that I think that I was wrong. I just think that we place too many responsibilities on our children when we should allow them to grow up and be true. Yes, we want to teach them responsibility. I would never waver from that. We want to teach them responsibilities, but at the same time, how much, to what level, to what degree? And how much is too much too early? How much is too much?
I don't believe in the children. It's responsible. The children's responsibility for paying the bills and things of that and providing.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else is a task that you teach your child.
Okay.
So one, if you want that task repeated, you have to teach it to be repeated.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Great to me. It teaches team building and cohesiveness as well. Mm-hmm. It teaches you the importance of family and taking care of family, and what is important about being family.
I understand,
and how you know the difference.
And again, I say I understand what y'all saying, and I'm not gonna say that y'all are wrong, because everybody got their own perspective on this thing. I'm just saying that I think there could be a alley in this thing that we're talking about that we're missing, and that we could be robbing our children of them being children because of the fact that we want to enforce, quote unquote, that responsibility. Rico, what do you say to that, brother? Oh, we just lost Rico. Okay. Hopefully he'll call back in. He might have got disconnected. Badger, talk to me.
No, I'm still coming from the same point that I was coming from earlier. Is you know, if we put them in the role of a parent, my perspective is we're taking a lot of opportunities away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some could say they're providing, the opportunity to know what it is to be responsible and what being a parent is like and all kinds of stuff. Just for me, I'm not for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather find another way. Um, but looking, we can do the best we can to raise our kids. There's a lot of scenarios, especially in this current day and age, many factors that are going into play of ways to teach our children,
Mm-hmm.
undoing some of the toxic stuff from and passing on, the good things that's been handed down, or doing our best to do things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But teaching responsibility, I feel that's a really hard line to figure out. Because some kids, like you said it earlier, some kids are more mature than others,
Mm-hmm.
be it male or female. So it's, to me, one of those aspects of understanding your child and respecting them for where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there are going to be some that you probably shouldn't. Then there are some that they are. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything in between. So I think a lot of it boils down to the parent just understanding who their kid is and what they're capable of. And that is influenced by what you teach them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see them taking care of the kids as, like stressing them out in negative ways, find out what's going on. Maybe that's not for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the point of what I'm saying is you can't treat all kids the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Each kid has their skill sets. And I'm not saying, pamper them, but that's not what I'm saying at all. It's have a relationship with your kid to understand them, who
Mm-hmm.
they are. If you've got 3 or 4 kids, who knows, maybe the oldest one has a struggle, but the middle one at the age of 12 has enough maturity that you could actually trust them. So it's, I hope I'm being clear.
Mm-hmm.
I've,
Mm-hmm.
I've got so much on my mind that I don't even feel like I'm talking right this morning.
No, you good. You good.
So,
Yeah.
because I attended a 8 to 5 meeting with the Governor's Committee for Disability yesterday, and that talking about kids and accessibility, and that's still messing with me pretty bad. And I get to do it again today.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's good. That's good. Let me go to Rico. What do you say to this, man? Can you see, or is there a possibility that we could be robbing our children, and while we're placing these quote unquote responsibilities on them, we robbing them of their
There,
childhood?
there's no doubt. There's no doubt. If you don't see it that way, then you got to touch with reality. I believe the children are our future.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them well and help them lead those. Show them all the beauty that's inside, man. You know what? You know what the consequences is from these latchkey children suffering from low self-esteem and depression? They start looking for acceptance. Start looking for pleasure. They start looking to be, for joy. They want to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this thing called pregnancy increase over the years. Well, that only happens with a lack of parental supervision most of the time. Oh, man, you expect that 12-year-old to keep the 18-year-old or 25-year-old from coming in the house and taking advantage of them and the rest of the siblings. They supposed to protect that. Man, once again, it's the industrial age, man. I think I remember seeing a point in time where they said that after the recession and during the war effort, that something unheard of happened, and that was a requirement for women to come out of the homes and to come into the factories to help produce weapons for the war effort. And it was so profitable and successful, but people had to sacrifice the children. So what's the consequences between low academic efficacy? Oh, we speak about it all the time, the school to prison pipeline. It's only gotten worse. Black men have only started getting, I ain't gonna only just started. Black men have been increasing year after year after year after year in the total number of people incarcerated in the United States. See, there are so many different effects from the parent leaving that vulnerable. I could never be sick of the kids or the elderly, because I know the Creator has let me know that the kids are the future. And if we really protect and provide for them accurately, we might not have to be advocates and activists for them later on. But see, we got to do a lot of fighting for people right now. A lot of people lost and distressed. They just all over the place. We talk about this dysfunctional environment that we come from, and really and truly, it all comes from a lack of having that proper instruction and guidance at a young age. I think about the little small black community I'm from, and how all the black people in the county had to come to the school. It was called Calhoun County Training School. Then they had another college, Talladega College, HBCU, all developed to teach black people how to get out here and go to work for the industries that were created. Much needed. Why, we need these jobs. You can make some money, start providing for your family. But see, in today's age, you need 5 or 6 sources of income to make it. Did you hear me? In today's age, we need 5 or 6 sources of income to make it, or call ourselves successful or whatever, to survive. So what does that leave the children that sometimes we say, you're growing up too fast, you're too big for your britches, you're grown, stay in a child's place. How you gonna tell me to stay in a child's place when you done made me cook noodles for 5 more children?
Yeah.
And told me to be responsible for getting them baths and getting them home. You know what? I might really think I'm grown enough to do what a grown person do. Matter of fact, when you go to the club, I'm gonna sneak a man in his house and let him pin my knees back like you be letting him pin yours back. Because you got enough time for that all the time that you out here making your income. So you can provide. So once again, it's the institution that we're living in that has us sacrificing our children because of the necessity and the priority to make this manufactured dollar to be able to even survive anyway. Because if you don't, you might not even be able to get electricity into your home. If you have a home, if you have a car, the struggle is real, and there's so many different impacts and consequences behind it that sometimes we get out of touch and we forget the number of people being incarcerated increasing, and the number of young children dying from gun violence and acting all out of disorder increasing, and the number of teenage mothers increasing. The fact that it's so normal and popular now that they make TV shows out of it that's been running for 15 years. Wow. More than one TV show. So, we just can't be, I'll never ignore the I'm going to say the responsibilities and the needs that the children really are missing out on. And on top of that, the responsibilities that are being pushed on them is above and beyond what they should have.
Exactly.
We do have to remember these children do learn from example, and they watch us in the process. And an immature mind would think they are mature enough at 12 or 13 because they got the right side or the right build that they can deal with a 21 or 22-year-old man, especially if they know how to put the nails on and the hair on and wear the outfit and walk the walk and talk the talk. Oh, man, you know how many little 12 and 13-year-old girls I know of that had babies by 23 and 24-year-old dudes, and they thought these girls were older because they was out walking around at 1 or 2 in the morning.
Wow.
While mama was at work or going to do this and that. So, yeah, man, I'm on, man. Go on to the next one, man.
Wow. And that's a lot. And that's a lot, man. And so there's a lot of responsibility. We shine the light on different things, but we dim the light on other things. And so I think we have to shine the same light across the board and expose a lot of things that's going on. Toussaint, you say you had something on your heart?
Yeah, I think that's it's a lot of dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
When you allow your children to see adult activity, that's good. That's in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I'm talking about trying to, because you're not raising children to be children. You're raising them to be adults.
Mm-hmm.
I got some family members. None of them work for anybody. So what they do is they train their children into being adult, business orientated.
Mm-hmm.
So trucking industry. So I see my nephew give the keys to the 18-wheeler to his son
Mm-hmm.
at 5.
Wow.
Go warm that truck up.
Mm.
And I watched him do that, and I thought it was kind of crazy. But now at 21, he got his own truck,
Mm-hmm.
and he's out there by himself doing oversized loads.
Mm-hmm.
He started him at an early age. And by the time he was 18, he was in the garage building the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Did he rob him of a childhood or give him the responsibilities of being a effective adult in society? I think he did him good. Other nephew, he don't work for anybody. He's a contractor. He has other things that he's doing. And somehow or another, his 13-year-old daughter is finishing school and entering in college. What did he do for her? Rob her or help her? So
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, and I love your point, but me being the question asked, I like to deal with both sides of the coin. And I also have seen people that in households that would have responsibilities or too much thrust on them too fast. They thought that they was growner than what they really were. And they found themselves in situations whereas, the young girls get, like Rico was saying earlier, the young girls are getting pregnant. The young boys are falling victim to a whole lot of different things, man, drugs or whatever the case. Because of the fact that, sometimes, man, I hate to say it, man, but sometimes I think we as parents, not intentionally, certainly not, but we put too many responsibilities on these young people, and they are not ready or equipped to handle it. Let me go to Cap. Cap, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Raheem, and good morning to my Morning Glow family.
Cap, what we're talking about this morning, and good to have you, sir. What we're talking about this morning is if you have more than one child. I have 4 daughters, and I know that I did it. And so I'm not going to get on here and be like holier than thou, no, I did it myself. I know that I put a lot more responsibility on my firstborn daughter than I did. And as my other daughters came along, the load lessened on each child as it came along. But that firstborn, I put a lot of responsibilities on her. You should be able to do. You're the firstborn. You're the oldest. You should know how to do this. You should blah blah blah. So I'm asking the question: do we as parents do that to our children? And if we do that, put them responsibilities, because we have to go to work, have to pay the bills. Somebody have to make sure that the house is being taken care of. And we have an older child in the household, that responsibility 9 times out of 10 gonna fall on that older child. So are we robbing our children of their childhood and putting all these adult responsibilities on them? What do you say to that?
Well, it all depends who the parent is. I just like, I heard what Toussaint said, about a father in the early stages putting responsibility by giving the keys to his young son. But then again, if you look at the end result, years later, he's in the trucking business. I think it's going to differ with me, Brother Raheem. I think it's different with every family. Number one, it all depends how you grew up as a man. How did your father put responsibility on you?
Mm-hmm.
I came in the nation at 18 years old, so my whole life was under a certain training and a certain discipline. So when I did have a son, I brought that son up in that training and that discipline, which means most of the time he was with his mother as I was soldiering in the nation. And of course, when he got a little older, as a young man, we put him in what we call the University of Islam, and he learned how to drill at a young age. He learned his prayer in Arabic at a young age, and he was in the mix with young men his own age, learning the same principles. And so therefore, he had a culture, a new culture we put him in. Now, what about the parents that don't have a religious persuasion? I may say that, use that word, who come up as a single parent. And they're taught that, as I heard Rico was talking about these young ladies that's 13 and 12, and man, you can't tell them no more because they're coming out fully budded. I heard the minister talk about that the hormones in the foods that we eat are bringing young girls into their menses at 8,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 9, sometimes 10. That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they eat these hormones, they blowing up, they shape, they curve. You can't tell. Only time you can tell that they are young is when they open up their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people putting their children, and just some men believe it, putting them, the ladies today, and I know everybody heard it, this is my little man.
Yeah.
And some of them even call him little man. Hey, come here, little man. And so, they dress them up like an adult, the young men, the young boys, and they try to treat him like a young man. And he's got braids, he's got Timberland boots on, and he's coming up because that's our mentality. And so he begins to start taking on the ways of the world at an early age and making bad decisions because there's nobody there in a male figure to give him any kind of guidance. The young ladies the same way. The mothers no longer are mothers. The mothers are girlfriends. She's no longer a mother to her child, female child, girl child. That's a friend. They become friends.
Mm-hmm.
And today they begin to start discussing things that ain't no way a mother should be discussing these kind of things with their young daughters.
Mm-hmm.
But this is society because why? Today, either you going to raise them or TikTok going to raise them,
Yeah.
Instagram going to raise them. You can't hide today
Mm-hmm.
the influence of sexuality to these young kids, and you don't think they know. They know more than you can imagine. You got today these young boys, 11 years old, in the school. I was doing a training one time, Ryan, and a young boy in the back while I was talking to him. He's showing another young boy. These kids about maybe 10, about 11, 12, young boys. I go back there, man. Yo, my man, come here. He brings his phone up, man. He's showing he's on the porn site.
Good Lord.
Here's a young boy, 11 years old, man, 10 years old on a porn site on his phone. So this is modern technology today. So we are, our children. Then when a young man, at 11 years old, listen to me, 10 years old, he's on a porn site, and he's looking at the perversion of women. Whether I don't know what I can't even tell you what he was looking at, but the perversion. So what's in his mind? What's in that 11-year-old mind now? When every time he see a woman, every time that young boy see a woman, he see a porn star.
Mm-hmm.
Every time that young boy see a woman, he think every woman likes to get on her knees. Every woman likes to take it up the back. So every woman because why? He's letting his mind be shaped by influence because we have allowed this to happen because we have lost control of the influence of our young people. So you want to know, are they making these young people grown up way before they should be? There's no longer children. They're no longer children. They don't have playgrounds no more.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have playgrounds no more.
Wow. Wow.
My granddaughter graduated last Sunday. 16 years old. My granddaughter, 16 years old, graduated. Now next she gonna be going to college at 17.
Mm-hmm.
Now what's going to happen if I don't keep a good strong ring on her? Her mind ain't developed enough to be able to handle adults in college.
Exactly.
On her own in college,
Mm-hmm.
independent in college. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, we got a problem, Houston. But I do believe, man, that we got to build the Black family again. That's where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
The mother got to get retrained. The Black man got to get retrained. We got to retrain our whole people community and create a new culture, because the culture that they come under, that they call the Black culture, ain't the Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Black culture, not the Black culture that created gods and goddesses,
Yeah.
kings and queens.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't that culture no more. We're producing perverted children who comes up, and the next thing you know, that young man's destined to prison. That young female, she ain't gonna say she's destined to the strip pole,
Mm-hmm.
but
Good
the
deal.
strip pole is definitely looking very attractive to her.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, Cap. Let me pull some more people. Hold on, don't you go nowhere, brother. But I do want to say this. We have we actually on TikTok right now as well, and I'm trying to read the name here. I can't see the name, but the gentleman has said LMAS, laugh my blank off. You know what that means. He said, don't speak on what you don't know. He said, and I think he's talking about when you said about the science in the food and the hormones in the food, the steroids. He said, don't speak on what you don't know. Science proves this isn't happening. Cap, do you want to quickly respond to that?
Unless he a scientist, then he don't speak what he don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a scientist?
I don't know who it is.
That goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That goes both ways. Don't speak on what you don't know. Are you a scientist, or you gonna believe what you heard?
Mm-hmm.
I said I heard. I didn't say I believe. I said I heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I heard a lot of things. We quote many things that we heard. That don't mean we believe it,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes sense. It definitely makes sense, because if you know you can take a chicken, and in 9 months it could be a full-grown chicken, and tell you normally it takes you almost 16 months to make a full-grown chicken because of hormones. I didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
This is known fact. They shoot them with hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't have to be no scientist to know that. They tell you the truth about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm through with that.
Good deal. Good deal. Rico, what's on your heart? Badger, coming to you next. I'm sorry. I said I was gonna go to Leonard. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother?
Just listening, like I say, everybody has a perspective. I'm not on this blame game or looking for negativity or creating negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Negativity is really capable of creating itself. So I believe in you do the best that you can. You put your best foot forward, and then things that happen along the way, you adjust.
Mm-hmm.
People can attribute whatever they would like to their outcomes, if that's what they want to do. If you believe, like, say, for instance, cutting the grass. If you're a little boy, when you learn how to cut the grass, it's because you got enough age to be able to push a mower.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Your daddy could be doing other things while he don't taught you how to push the mower. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
The notion that everybody's dysfunctional, everything's broken, and everybody need to reset and do things different than me, the different way, I don't go along with that at all. I believe in people have their own choices, and as long as we keep trying to attribute this to that, no one will take responsibility for what actually is going on.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We know exactly how to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But we choose to do things other ways. So you're not going to get your best outcome by putting in the least amount of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And always blaming somebody else for something ain't a way to go. You don't get to be a child that long enough to be sitting here obsessing over it. Because before you know it, you're an adult. You're training up a child to be an adult, not a bigger kid.
That's true. That's true.
So
But
you teach responsibility.
that's true. And I
There's various levels of responsibility.
And I do agree with teaching responsibility. But my issue with the thing is this: are we? And you're not a child long, and I love what you said. You raise them to be an adult, but in the process of doing that, do you cut off a certain part of their childhood to pour in with more responsibility, or do you allow them to be a child and go through that process?
Well, like I said, unless you're one of them people that just believe in letting your child run wild, the whole thing about it from when they first come out is forming and shaping behavior. And you're supposed to do that as a parent based on what you think is best. We're not sitting here talking about the drug addicts and everybody else because that's not proper. Because it's just not. You don't teach from dysfunction. You teach best practice. And wherever you go to find, like what I love what what Captain was talking about, based on his experience, Muslim University and all that's his personal experience. But it's not for everybody. So we have to be conscious of that. Everything is genuine and unique. There's a best practice, but even the best of practices don't always yield the best people in the world. You know, the family is about folks pitching in and helping one another. So you teach that early. Children, if you have multiple children, if you notice, you give all those other children a different task. Some child, like I said, when my kids was little, they was pulling that chair up to the sink, learning how to clean grease. But now you do it, if you don't like it, guess what? Go on, we'll find something else for you to do. But at least you know how it's done. Most children start asking you, hey, let me help do this. Let me help do that. Can I do this? Can I do that? What you go to? No, don't be a kid. What does that mean? What does that mean? Don't be a kid.
Well, see, my thing is this: if they're inquisitive about it, you don't turn them away. But at the same time, if they're not inquisitive about it, do you pour it onto them? Do you thrust it on them?
Yes, you introduce them. That's your job as a parent. You know, you want to teach them, like pretty soon one of their chores is going to be washing dishes. Chores may be doing laundry.
Yeah.
Those are called chores that you would do. If I get up with my granddaddy going out to that field and he's going to take care of his little things. And guess what? I go out there and learn how to do what he do.
That's good.
That's how I learn how to plant and everything.
But my thing is this right here, and all that's good. I love that. All that's good. But what I'm talking about is if the parent have a job and single parent home, and he or she have to go out and work, and you leave that child at home, say, look here, you have to take care of this household. Don't let nobody in my house. Don't blase. Make sure all your brothers and sisters are wash a certain time. Make sure they brush their teeth. Make sure they do their homework and stuff. You're putting responsibilities on that child of being an adult, and that child is still a child. That's the part I'm talking about.
Well, like I said, you have to put it in that perspective. First of all, we're talking about a single parent home. You made the definition of it was led by a mother, and then this mother had a child, and she had 7 children. That's all. That's completely different. But that's not everybody's story. I applaud some of these single parents for the way they have organized their life and how they have had to make things work, and they do it so great. I mean, some of these, even I don't have an excuse. My daddy died, so I'm supposed to walk around here like I ain't got no sense because my daddy died. No, I was still taught how to be a responsible human being.
Okay. I mean,
and whether you got 2 parents in the home or not, that's still necessary teaching. Now, whether you do it or not, that may show up later with your child. But for the majority, I don't know people doing their best that really would even compare their life to your life, because it's not. It's just the way we live. People want something in life, so they come up with a way to raise their families to satisfy that want and that desire. So different households have different plans. Hopefully they have good leaders in those homes, which we would call head of household.
Okay.
That
Wrap it
are
up.
decent people trying to do their best for their children.
Okay. Good deal. And like I said, I think everybody got their own opinion. I'm not here to give anybody their opinion. Everybody have their own, but I think there's a element of the society that really rob these children of being children and putting the adult responsibilities on them. We got another call. I want to go to the call. Then we'll come back to Rico. Cassandra, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Good morning.
Cassandra, what do you say to this? We're talking about children, and sometimes a single mother, single father, or two-parent household work, and they tell their firstborn child, they got 2 or 3, 4 children, however many children they can take care of, they have those children, and they tell their firstborn, look here, you have to take responsibility of this house. Make sure your brothers and your sisters do their homework, wash, brush their teeth before they go to bed, and say their prayers and all these different things. Make sure they eat and all these different things before y'all go to bed. Make sure, Cassandra, in doing that, is there an element? Is there a possibility? Let me say it that way. Is there a possibility that we could be robbing their firstborn child of being a child of him or herself?
Okay, I've talked about this on the show before years ago. I'm the oldest of 5 children. My mother died. I was 12 years old. I was the oldest. Okay. So we were stair-stepped down from 12 down to 5 years old. And my grandmother took all of us, and I literally had, at 12 years old, had to do everything for my siblings. And if anything went wrong, I was the one that got abused because something went wrong. But I'm going to tell you, it did rob me of my childhood because I was doing things that I felt like I shouldn't have had to do. Yeah. But because my mother had died and my grandmother took all of us in, I had to do it. It wasn't no if and a but. So I did everything as if I was the mom. And that took something away from me. And I always felt that way. So when I had children, I didn't want my children to do any. I mean, I would tell them to clean their room. But I'm talking about, I didn't want them to work, because I started working when I was 12 as well. Or earlier than that, actually. But I worked and went to school. It was too much. And it did damage me. But, it's like you said, everybody has their own way that things should be. I feel like it damaged me. I really do.
Wow. And see, you can speak from personal. See, we are talking from outside looking in, or maybe as parents or something like that, but you could talk from a real personal level because it actually happened to you. And so that's why I value what you just said. It happened to you. And you felt as though it robbed you of your childhood. It robbed you. And you was doing things that as a child that you should not have to do. That's something that a grown person should do or should be doing. Rico, what's on your heart? Friday coming to you next, sis.
Thank you, Cassandra. Plain and simple, like you said. You want to hear from the horse's mouth? Kill everybody's opinion, and then hear from somebody that went through it, and tell everybody to take what they said and just deal with it or listen. Open your mind. Man, if you don't want to listen to Cassandra, listen to the king of pop. Everybody loves Mike. And he said his childhood was stolen from him. But who would imagine? Who would think that Michael Jackson would be thinking or even hung up on something so trivial? He's Michael Jackson. He's the biggest star in the world. He makes all his money. He's successful. And he said, man, I miss my childhood, man. And it showed. It showed in his adulthood. But the world had him on a pedestal. We didn't see nothing wrong with Mike. Even the things that did look wrong, it's Mike. He can get away with that. But Mike was saying, look, man, I had a problem, man. I got some things that I'm still dealing with, man. The reason why y'all see me carrying monkeys around and holding whelps there, man, because man, I missed out on a lot of stuff, man, that the average child was supposed to be able to do. So what I don't understand is why is it so hard for us to understand that you have to find a balance in this? Don't dismiss what everybody's saying because it's negative, because if it ain't the truth, if it's true, if it's negative, but it's true, then it exists. You just can't ignore it. You just can't, get tired of the kids. It's the truth. Man, listen, my parents, even though my grandmama raised me, I still had to live by the rules of 3 different households. So that means my parents sort of utilized me as a babysitter when they needed me. Ain't that something? I got all that neglect, but when they needed me, I still had to show up. Oh, Rico, we need you to come out here and cut the grass. Well, I got to cut my grandmama's grass today. I'm your mama. I come first. But wait a minute. I live with my grandmama. She take care of me. And y'all don't do nothing. But you come first. So I had to abide by them rules. And so I still had a key to that house. And I went out there, man, and I was the perfect big brother to my 6-year-old. My brother that was 6 years younger than me. So my parents thought. But, man, when they got older and they had to go and clean out that septic tank one day, Lord have mercy, who got all these condoms in our toilet and our septic tank? Who been doing all this? You see, that's how slick children could be, too. And when they realize that they got all that responsibility and then they could get the trust of their parents, yeah, you be out there hunching. Ain't that what y'all call it last week?
Yeah, hunching.
You be doing that.
Yeah.
With the pants down. And if you ain't kept, your little brother be looking in the room laughing. I heard her, Rico, I heard her. Why go downstairs? I'm trying to be grown. Too much responsibility. So you have to find a balance, man. So as a parent, first off, you have to remember all the things that you did good as a child and all the times you could have taken advantage of your parents, even though you didn't, you did what was right because you were sheltered or brought up in a way that you didn't want to do bad things. But then at the same time, remember your friends. I mean, I don't ever look through things just through my experience. You know what I'm saying? I look at the other people's experience. And when somebody tell me they had a daughter that got pregnant at 12, and then I meet that daughter, and that daughter tell me, well, you know what? At 12, I was built like I was 22. And I was staying with my granddad. Me and my mama was staying with my granddaddy, but mama was working. And when she went to work, I was out and about. Matter of fact, she don't even realize I had stopped going to school. And I was responsible for my younger siblings. The younger siblings turned out better than her. She's still having children. She ain't been able to stop having children yet. So, I mean, man, this life that we live, man, we are products of our environment, man. You know what I'm saying? Some people may say they are victims of the environment. But once again, I'm going to go back to the conditions that we live in. This system that we live in, it requires us to sacrifice some of the people we shouldn't sacrifice in order to survive. And it's hard to draw the line and make a balance on saying, well, you know what? This is a little bit above and beyond the responsibility that my child should have. I'm going to draw the line right here and say, no, let me wait a minute. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, you got to learn to cut the grass, but you ain't going to teach them to cut grass at 2. Yeah. There's a time and a place for everything. And you got to put a balance to it. The influences that exist outside. And just like if you're not around 24/7, I just gave the definition a second ago. And then the repercussions, this is all about, to me, these conversations, when we bring up the negative, is also to try to make people realize, okay, be aware of these conditions that may exist so you can preventive measures. That's what they call them. So you can prevent the possibility that you trust your child so much to the point where you don't think they'll do nothing wrong. Now, all of a sudden, you're taking them to neonatal appointments.
Wow. 508.
You don't want to get caught off guard. It happens all the time.
Exactly.
So I look at this as preventive measures. It's not about being negative all the time, but it's about being truthful and being aware of the conditions that exist under the conditions that we are required to live under.
Good deal. Let's keep this thing going. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Phone line, give us a call. We'd like to have your opinion or your input as to what we're talking about this morning. Everybody's more than welcome to call in. Friday, good morning, young lady. How you doing this morning? Friday, you there? Oh, I think did we lose Friday? Hopefully she'll be able to call. She'll be able to call her back in. Cap, talk to me.
But you know, I'm gonna say this, and it makes sense. You can't fix anything that you do not acknowledge it's broke. You know, sometimes I heard, Dr. Leonard talk about, he don't like to talk about the negativity, and we all down with that. But sometimes talking about the condition that we're living under is very negative. And some things that we're talking about, it's tied into a negative component. But that don't mean that we feed into the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
I just think in order for us to repair a culture, and I can only speak about the Black culture. I mean, we can go into the universality of humanity, but you can't help nobody. You can't help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't contribute to society of humanity if you ain't bringing nothing to the table because you don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about the Black culture, everybody that's Black understands what I'm talking about. It ain't like we ignorant to it. And yes, we can be the ostrich and stick our head in the sand and act like it don't exist. But we need to start thinking in terms of what can we do to change a behavior that is so destructive. That this destructive behavior are taking our young people out the game early.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit back and talk about where we are. I like what Cassandra said. I was listening to my wife say the older child always gets treated lose their childhood because of the responsibility that's put on them.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Sister Cassandra was right on spot. Michael Jackson, as Rico talked about, he lost his child, but what did he do to try to get it back? He built a place called Neverland.
Yes.
Neverland ain't nothing but a big playground.
Mm-hmm.
Here he tried to recapture his childhood. I came out of a family of 12, and I have a sister, my oldest sister. She was my mama when my mom was gone. She was robbed of her childhood because she had to take good care of the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. It is a responsibility. However, in the nation, we cannot honor the young men and honor we call them juniors. No FY, young FY, all the way up to 16. We got a uniform. Y'all probably seen the uniform, FY uniform.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
On that uniform, you see we got patches on our shoulders. On their shoulders, you see the star and the crescent, the red star and the crescent. We cannot put patches on that little young soldier's uniform. If the mother make him a uniform, he can't put the patches on his shoulders. I want to be like the Muhammad said, he's not mature enough to wear the universe or even get into the science of it. He's not mature. He can't even get into the FY class until he's 16 years old. That's when he can get into class with the men. So we had a system. The nation gave us another kind of culture. And it's that culture, man, that we came up with discipline and the men were separated from the women. We had FY training classes. We need to begin to understand what can we do to contribute to help our young men today and take some of the principles of the nation where, we leave the religious part off where they may have a problem with the religious part, but you cannot turn around good manhood training, Simba training.
Mm-hmm.
We can never fix it, man, if we don't acknowledge it's broke.
Yeah.
And I think we have to look at a runaway train. What are we going to do? We just forget about it? I know one thing about those who fight a forest fire. When the fire is out of control, Raheem, this is what the firefighters do. When the fire is out of control, they let it burn out. But you know what they do? They dig a big old trench, a big old ditch, and they set another part so the fire won't be able to jump.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they set the fire. So they make sure that the fire is not able to jump.
Mm-hmm.
And he let it burn itself out. Well, that's the way I think about the Black community. Do we have to let it burn itself out? Well, what do we mean, dig a trench? Do we have to set out boundaries and territories where we got to protect the good neighborhood so that the bad neighborhood don't flop over to the north side and burn it down. So what do? We got to put a boundary, man. I hate to say it like that, but have we lost control? And if we ain't lost control, how do we get control? So our little girls, like Rico said, they're not out there, man. And he said something true that the mama's gone, but sometimes, as Rico probably tell you, shoot, it's the grandfather that's having sex with that daughter.
Wow.
We don't want to talk about that part. It ain't so much that she leaving the house. No, grandpa chasing around the daggone house. That's very, very real. And if ain't grandpa, it's that no good boy that she met at the club that came out of prison. He's staying overnight with her while she go to work. He leaves her home with her teenage daughter, and he's chasing around the house. There's no more men to protect the virtue of our young ladies. There's no more men to protect the virtues of our young ladies.
Yes, absolutely.
The home is broken.
Yeah.
We have to build the black family together again so we can help humanity. We can't help humanity if we can't help ourselves. That's what's on my heart, Raheem.
Good deal. And I want to say good morning to Diane. Quite a few people. We got quite a few people that's on the TikTok. Cheryl, I'm gonna miss a few of y'all, man. I definitely don't. DC, I'm gonna miss a few of y'all. Quite a few of you are on this, and you all could be a part of the conversation. Just give us a call, 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Would definitely love to have the input, and I'll need some of them hearts and stuff y'all be doing on that TikTok thing. Share some of the love with me, and share the broadcast. Please share the broadcast. We're talking about today, when we have more than one child, do the first child get all the responsibility thrust upon him or her? And if that be the case, are we robbing those children? Are we robbing our children and placing those responsibility on them of their childhood? Let's go to Willow. Good morning, young lady. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Raheem. I am doing awesome. Good morning, Morning Glow.
Good morning, sis. What do you say to that, man? If you have two or three children, and you have to go to work, pay the bills, do the different things that you have to do, you tell your oldest child, look, you're the oldest. Now, the responsibility, I need you to do this. Make sure they go to bed. Make sure the homework is done. Make sure they're fed. You're putting all the responsibilities on your firstborn because you're old enough, and you should be able to handle this because you're the firstborn. Are we being fair to our children, and are we robbing them of their childhood? What do you say to that, Willa?
Well, yes, Raheem. I believe that wholeheartedly that we rob the oldest children sometimes I say, of their youth, because I know I shared that with you when I was taking the kids to school. They're out of school now. The young lady that I would take, she just graduated out of 8th grade. She would be angry a lot of times because her mother put that responsibility on her to take care of the younger brother, but she wasn't even the oldest. She had another young man who was 18. He was the oldest, but the responsibility was on her. She's only 13. So she became angry with her mom.
Wow.
So she expressed that with me, and I tried to make her understand, that sometimes, when you have a single mother and you're trying to do the best for all of them, somebody has to, be kind of sacrificed just for a little while, but it teaches you something. So I gave her kind of a lesson that it taught her, as well as her being angry about what her mother did. And I think it kind of calmed her down and she understood. But I also have a niece now. She just made 50. I mean, she been angry with her mom for a while. Her mama had 10 kids. And she was angry, not so much that she had to take care of them all the time, but she kept having kids. My sister kept having kids. And then they were put on my niece, who's now 50. And she understood, for a while, but then when you're going to stop having these kids? And that's what their battle was. Why are you, it's only us. There's no man in the household. Why are you putting the responsibility on me? You keep having them. I'm helping you, mama, but you taking away a lot of things from me. So yeah, I got a niece who would definitely love to share her story.
Wow.
But yeah,
wow.
Raheem, we do that. But with the way the society is nowadays, we got to, when we're like that, we do make bad choices. We have to pull together sometimes. Sadly, it's that way. And that's what's on my heart right now.
Wow. Good deal. Good deal. Toya with a T. Good morning, young lady. How you doing this morning?
Get morning. How y'all doing?
Hey, you coming in with some fire. I can tell already. Says doing good. What do you say to this, man? Are we robbing out? Do we, in this situation, in this scenario, could we be robbing our young people of their childhood by thrusting all these responsibilities on them because of the fact they're the oldest? They should be able to handle it. You're old enough. You're the oldest one. You should be able to handle it. So I want you to do this. Make sure they watch before they go to bed. Make sure they brush their teeth. Make sure they eat and their homework is done. All these adult responsibilities thrust on a child. Is that too much?
Yeah. So for me, I got a different kind of mindset. I think where we drop the ball at is we never explain things to our kids. They just do them. We bark out commands. Our kids don't have choices. I started having nephews at 6, nieces and nephews. There's 17 of them now. And when I tell you I was the first one running over there to do my job, that was my job as an auntie, to teach them, to put them to bed, to hold them down. My sisters and my brothers, that's why I'm kind of mad with my family, because I know what kind of person I was, because my father raised me to be. Take care of your big sisters and brothers, even though they didn't do it back. I was running over to their houses, and my brother making up, if you come to my house dirty, then it need to be clean to you, my sister. But you got this big ass, this big grown wife and these 2 kids. But I gotta clean it. But I had already been taught by my dad, my job for my nieces and nephews. I'm the oldest. They're watching you. You gotta take care of them. So at 6, my mindset was already wrapped around responsibility. Now, this is where things get different. My father made sure I had balance. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if I took them outside with me, and there were times I was walking down the street at 19 with 11 of them looking like the duck with little ducklings behind them, and we was going to the park because I had to teach them things. I had to teach them how to play football. I knew what my brothers and sisters, I knew they were special. I had to teach them football. I had to teach them basketball. I had to teach them certain things that I knew they would not get from my family. So me, I was up for the challenge, and I'm still auntie, and I'm still gonna break it down, and I'm still like their mother. Most of them say, "Oh, you like a mom, you raised me," and I had to correct them. I said, now, if you stay with your mother most of the time, food feeding you and clothing you, I did sometimes. But you feel like that because of the things I put into you, right? So I think that is balance. When you talk about Black people to me, I think about where we come from and slavery. So I don't want to hear, "Oh, I got to take care of my brothers and sisters. It's too much." No. We don't have no excuses because where we came from. However, if you're going to be your brother's keeper, what that means? Just your best friend? Oh, so you want to leave out the house and to get your responsibilities to go hang with your best friend and hold them down like they're your brother. So I think that where we drop the ball at in our community is that we don't explain our positions. We don't explain our roles. We don't ask for help, right? I remember telling my nephews and nieces, "Hey, I'm taking care of you because when I get older, I'm going to need somebody to take care of me. I'm here to help you. And if you ever need anything, I'm going to be there for you." And there were guidelines. We drop those balls as parents. We block out orders. We teach them nothing. They learn 8 hours in school. When they come home, take care of your brother, take care of your sister. And the disconnect comes in because at a certain age, I know what you're supposed to be doing, parent, and you're not doing it. And when you start not doing it, you're going to aggravate me because I'm a child and I know what you're supposed to be doing. But wait a minute. You don't want to do it, but you want me to do it. That's where I believe the disconnect comes at in our culture. Because you want to block out orders and commands. You don't care nothing about my feelings. I don't have a voice. I can't speak up for myself. If I do something too wrong, I'll get a spanking. And then here you come, want to lay your legs up, tell me keep mine closed, bring a baby here and want me to watch me tugging around all day. That's out of order. And that is where the disconnect come in at. I don't think it's about taking away their childhood or responsibilities, because we're supposed to look after each other like that. But it becomes overkill sometimes when you, the parent, don't handle your job and want to pass it off to the kid. Like kids don't notice it. And I think that's where the disconnect is, right? When I started getting old enough and started saying, "Wait a minute, you keep having these babies and then wait a minute, no, there ain't no daddy around. The daddy ain't got to do nothing but me." That's my word to mother. I was the youngest, and I always had the conversation with my sister, "Yo, what's up? What's good with these kids, yo?" Like, I mean, I'm not mad. I love all of them. but you causing a struggle on us here. Like, what's
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
right? Oh, God didn't want me to have no kids. Yeah, 7 kids later, I bet you know it wasn't God telling you to have them babies.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I really think
Yeah.
that the disconnect come in with your perception. People are
Mhm.
not teaching you that that's your job when you have all these kids. Then you
Mhm.
seeing them make goofy mistakes as parents. All of that has a part to play. And when you're the sibling taking care of them and you're being cheated out of your childhood, you're
Yeah.
being cheated because it's actually true. The
Mhm.
parent is not making sure they have balance. They're
Mhm.
pushing responsibility on you. You notice that, you acknowledge that, and that's where the friction comes in at. So I don't think that
Absolutely.
it's too much responsibility, because those of us that have siblings, I know we
Mhm.
love our siblings. I
Mhm.
know we don't mind doing it. But I just feel like the way we are trained is going to be the way that we handle our situations when it comes to being a leader in our household. So,
Absolutely.
we just dropped the ball on explaining our role.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Let me go to Shanavia. Shanavia, good morning, young lady. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm all right. How y'all doing this
Hey,
morning?
doing good, doing good. Good to have you, sis. We're talking about kids, our kids, and when you have more than one child, a lot of time the oldest child get all the responsibility thrust on him or her. And the parents have to work. And they say, make sure that this is done, this is done, this is done. They wash, they brush their teeth, they make sure homework is done, they're fed, and all these adult responsibilities that's thrust on a child because they're the oldest. Shouldn't they, and they should be able to handle it because you're the oldest one. You should be able to handle it. Are we robbing our children of their childhood and placing all those responsibilities on them? Especially the oldest one?
Man, being the oldest kid, like on both sides, on my mom and my dad's side, and
Wow.
mind you, I shared with y'all, I didn't grow up in the household with either of my parents. I didn't live with my mom until I was 12, so my grandmother was my primary caretaker for the most part. My mom was more so of the co-parent until I lived with her. And I won't say, just speaking from experience, I love what Toya said, that balance, because in the explanation as parents, and especially, y'all know what I said, my grandma was an OG.
Yeah.
She did
Yeah.
not play the
Yeah.
radio. So there, in her mind, we're often, and especially in our culture, do as I say, not as I do, and you don't question me, because to question me would be disrespectful. We do not do a good job of explaining that. And if you are a parent in today's society that does give your children a voice and to hear them, then you're being soft as a parent, but you're trying to undo what was done to you. And I mean, and is it my grandmother's fault the way that she raised me? Absolutely not. She did what was done to her, and then tried to make the best of like what the mistakes that she did make, or the mistakes that was made with her, to not impress them onto me. So it's like a trickle effect, a ripple effect. But I mean, at 8 years old, like, I was running a household, and the
Wow.
household being my grandmother at 8 years old. And no exaggeration, if my mom is listening, she is more than happy to call in and back me up on what I'm saying. But my day started at 4 o'clock at 8 years old, to get my grandmother up, to cook breakfast, to lay out her medication, to give her her shot for her diabetes, get her ready for my mom to come and pick her up, to take her an hour and a half away for dialysis. I then had to get myself back up, get ready for school, get on the bus, check in with my aunt to let her know, who lived across the yard, that, hey, I'm gone, auntie, and I made it on the bus safe. Get off the bus, start all over again if I didn't have any outside. So can I say that part of me feel like that I was robbed of a childhood? To some degree, yes. Because did it also teach me responsibility? Yes. But I did not know when it was time for me to actually play, so to speak. I didn't know how to do that.
Wow.
Because it was all business. It was all like, it was so rigid. Like, at 36, I still have a hard time relaxing, because I feel like that if there's a moment in the day I should be doing something, or if there's this sense of perfection. So yes, to some degree, does it benefit you? Absolutely. But on the other end of it, does it come with some consequences and repercussions? Because when it comes to trying to trying to find that balance later on in life that you didn't get beforehand, yeah, it's very tricky. And you have to literally unlearn and relearn those things.
Wow. Cassandra, I have to come back to you on that because I know that y'all are actually pretty much singing the same song in how the responsibilities hurt you, help you in a way, but hurt you too. What do you say to that, Cassandra? Cassandra's having an issue with her mute button over there. So we'll go back to Cassandra. Friday, talk to me, sis. What do you say to that?
I say that it is relatable to me. Coming from a large family, I'm the middle child. And so my oldest sister, you know, I could assume that she had to do work and everything like that in the house and all those things. And then my older brother, who's the next in line, because he's a boy, he didn't necessarily have the demand on him in a way that I did. So I felt like for me, there was this like, well, you got to learn because you're the next oldest girl. And then it was, you are the oldest girl. So there was no like middle ground. And then there was things just because of the dynamic of the family and the timing that I didn't get to do that I wanted to do because of just finances and other things of raising a large family. So, and and then there was just witnessing like the stress and the dynamic of my parents managing what they needed to do to be parents. It was difficult because it was like kind of day and night because my mom was very for the most part soft spoken, very faith based. My dad, very wise, faith as well, but he'll cuss you out in a second. You better not make no noise because he got to work or just got off of work. You couldn't go outside. He had to stay in the house because he was sleeping and he didn't want us, to be getting in no trouble or get hurt on his watch while he was trying to rest. So, it was just kind of like one of those things. And I think it does have to do with the time. And I do find myself saying like, okay, I want to make sure like my son has space to play and space to, be a kid. But just as it was just said, I do also find myself, I catch myself like being more hard in the sense like, you got to make sure you do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, work, then play. And then when he's playing, because I don't know what that looks like necessarily, and I may or may not like how the other kids are playing. So I'm just like, all right, well, come on, let's go back. It's like, so I'm just like, I'm learning that process through him, like what is appropriate play, so to speak. And what like, all right, you're a child. You're supposed to be like silly and all these things. You don't have to be serious. You don't have to give a dissertation when a question is asked of you, because I had to be on my P's and Q's. I had to know what I was talking about because I had to see about my younger siblings or there was household management. So I can agree to that and to the fact that it does feel like part of that was taken away because when I wanted to have friends over, they couldn't come over because of whatever concerns. I couldn't go to them. I guess it was, I started learning about like different differences in like, oh, if you live over the track or this track or whatever. So like, they were like, no, you're not going to the project just to go play, even if those are your friends, because things can happen. And I didn't really understand that. All I knew was like, I couldn't go play with my friends. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. So I can relate to, both callers when they speak to that.
Good deal. And the phone, we got a few more minutes before we get out of here, a little more than 30 minutes, but the phone lines are open, 508-924-3521, 924-3521. Give us a call. We definitely love to have your input. Let me go to Rico. What's on your heart? And Leonard, come to you next.
I'm about to bust out with my Whitney Houston song again, man.
Don't do it. Don't you do it. Yes, sir.
I believe the children are our future, man. I'm gonna tell you something. See, once you become a parent, you have no bigger priority or responsibility in this world than to make sure that that child makes it to a point where they can provide and take care of themselves. That's where child rearing comes in. And in that child rearing, we're supposed to protect, provide, train, teach, and supervise. That's very, I mean, if you ain't supervising them, how much protecting can you do? So now what I'm saying is really and truly, in a perfect world, or in a proper world, parents would be outside or on the porch watching their children while they are at the bus stop, supervising. But now I'm gonna go back to that definition of latchkey children, because it became a social phenomenon. They said a social phenomenon. That means this is something unheard of and unseen throughout society, man, and it's taking over, and it's abnormal. Children being left at home alone by themselves, and it's a very big problem when it's more than 3 hours. But any child left at home for more than 3 hours, that's a latchkey child.
Yeah.
So then, and since 1944, it's been a social phenomenon, and it seems like it hasn't been addressed because now it's normal and it still exists. And we see the ripple effect. Remember I said everything has a cause and effect to it? We see the effects from it. We see the increase in numbers of black males in prison. We see the increase in numbers of young teenage moms. We see the rise in crime and how young they're getting. You know, so I'm going to break this down. I'm going to break down just how out of balance we are, how distracted we are from the system and the institutions that we live in that have manipulated us and made us sacrifice to a certain or conform unconsciously and sacrifice our children in the process. This thing says the problems that latchkey children face, such as physical and sexual abuse, crime and delinquency, depression and suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, emotional and behavioral problems, learning difficulties, school attendance problems, domestic violence, pregnancy, abortion, and venereal disease. Now, I pretty much name these things, and I ain't even a professional. But see, that's how concerned I am about my people and about the human race and mankind, and seeing what's going on around me in this environment and this atmosphere that really does have an impact on how we move and maneuver. So this institutional environment that we live in, it does have us out of balance. It does have us questioning whether we should do this to make some money, or should we sacrifice this because I got enough money and go and make sure I got my eyes on my children. Right now, it's so normal for people to go and chase that bag and justify it because we need it. It's a necessity. If I don't work, we don't eat. Me, I won't eat. You won't eat. Oh, my grandbaby that you just had at 12.
Wow. Again,
so what's the trade-off? We got to find that balance, man. We got to find that balance. I'm glad Navy called in because she's using them words that I use, balance. It's hard finding that balance as a parent, especially when we are under the influence of the American dream and this institution that exists that takes us out of the normal, natural state of life. If it wasn't for our ancestors being proper parents and supervising us, ain't no telling what type of predator would have destroyed life before it even got to where it was. But it took a family and a tribe and a village to supervise. That's why they say that it takes a village. Man, there's a lot of supervision in that village to raise that child.
Good deal. We're going to keep this thing going. We got quite a few people on here, so everybody keep it as close to your 3 minutes as you can without going over, because we got a lot of things to touch on here. So right now, let me go to Leonard. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother?
You know, not like I said, nothing in particular. Lots of people do the best they can, and doing the best they can is all I will expect of them. I'm not this type of person that believes in one thing fits all and everything's perfect or ever was perfect or ever will be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of everybody in the world ain't filthy, indecent, and nasty. Everybody in the world is not abused and neglected.
Mm-hmm.
I was said to have grown up before my time. Remember that when people used to say that?
Mm-hmm.
I've worked ever since I was 13. I was babysitting at 16, making extra money and everything.
Excuse me.
So I never looked at the things that my parents asked me to do as taking away my childhood from me. Those were just things that I was capable of doing and choosing to do. I had my normal chores just like everybody else. No complaints. I am the oldest child.
Mm-hmm.
So, it wasn't a big deal to me because I was maturing.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised to be an adult, not a child forever.
And let me ask you this question.
What?
You say
Yeah.
you were the oldest child, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Siblings, you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Okay. Now your sister, who's the oldest? You being the oldest, what do your sister fall in? What do your sister fall in at in regards to age?
She's 2 years younger than me.
Okay. I heard Cassandra. I heard what I think Willa said it, and Shanavia, she said it, and I think I heard our Friday say it as well, that them as young ladies, a lot of responsibility was placed on them because they're young ladies. Do you think your sister had a lot of responsibilities placed on her because she was a female in comparison to you, even though you were the oldest, or did that matter at all?
It didn't matter at all in my house.
Okay.
It's just that we as you grew up, you
mm-hmm.
moved through things.
Mm-hmm.
Childhood is on the way somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't where you stop. It's
mm-hmm.
on the way somewhere.
But do you bypass it?
I understand the importance of working since I was 13 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're gonna have to work anyway. Where's the world where you don't have to work?
You have to work. But my thing is, do we just bypass the childhood part and catapult ourselves straight to the part where you got to work, and you setting this person up to work, and you bypass that part about being a child. That's my concern.
Well, I was more concerned with, because you're talking about two different things, and the majority of these conversations seem to all be based in neglect and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't comment on that.
Okay. Good deal. Got a post here that was said, public citizen put this post up there. I'm gonna put that up there for people to read it, and we're gonna keep this thing going. Cassandra, are you back with us? Cassandra, are you there? Okay.
Can you get somebody to read public citizen post?
Hey, Friday, will you read that for me, please? Can you see it? I think she might be frozen. Okay, she's frozen. Let me pull up on my screen here so I can read it, make it a little larger because it's small letters. Okay, the biggest mistake my parents made was making doing chores and responsibilities more sort of a punishment as opportunity to learning how to be independent, an independent person. Doing chores is part of life. And again, I read it again. It says, go ahead. You want to say something to that, Rico? Rico, you there?
I mean, no, not really, but I really didn't want to say that. I just want to hear what he had to say, but it's true. I sort of want to hit on that on the last comment. Sometimes when you are teaching these chores, you have to mind screw people sometimes. You have to let them look at that as an accomplishment. Hey, look at that. You wash the dishes. You doing like grown people. Because all children want to be grown.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what Paul said with that. That is true, because sometimes it comes off as a punishment and it is looked at as negative.
Mm-hmm.
But, as a parent, that's part of the trick, is knowing that when you are teaching a child that they need to do some things to be responsible as an adult, but they feel like it's something, or you might know that they might feel like it's something they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make it feel like an achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're doing what grown people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you a man now.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? But if you make it seem like that's just a responsibility or requirement, this is your duty. you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. Then it could come off as negative. So I mean, it's all once again all about balance and having parenting skills, which I brought that up yesterday too. Parenting skills is the key to this.
Absolutely. Let me go to exactly. Let me go to Shanavia and Toya.
My bad about that. Hit the wrong button.
No, you're fine. Shanavia, what's on your heart? Toya, what is he coming to you next?
I mean, I don't know if I have any more to add to, because I mean, I'm coming in, I'm late to the party, so I don't know what all has been discussed. But you know, I don't think that there is it's a very loaded question, and everybody's going to either give an opinion or an experience that they've had, and it's going to be, you're going to have your good and your bad with that. I mean, it's not like this isn't a one size fits all type thing. And I think that the more that we have these conversations, I think that the more that we will start to see some of, I hate to say errors, but that's kind of like what they are. But even then, what works for my household isn't going to work for your household. But does that make me a bad parent because it works one way for you and it doesn't work that way for me? So I don't know. Like I wholeheartedly agree with the balance. I wholeheartedly agree with what Toya said previously about the explaining, because we do not do that. And I actually like what Paul said as well, with the not using these tools for life as punishment, because that's what they are. They're tools for life. But there has to be a balance there. And I'll even go a step farther to say, no disrespect to the men on the line, but as females growing up from such a young age, we are, dare I say, groomed to take on certain responsibilities at such an early age. Then whenever we become adult women and it's hard for us to ask for help and y'all see us as uber independent, and maybe that's why.
Wow. And that's one of the reasons why I asked the question of Leonard in the household, because he said he was the oldest, and I actually did his sister, where does she fall into the age limit? He said it didn't make a difference, but in some situations I think it does. I think it does make a difference. And a lot of responsibility are placed upon the young ladies. Toya, what did he talk to me, sis?
Yeah, I think that that's a lot of truth to that too, because of how society depicts us as women. They depict us as the caretakers, and I'm assuming because we carry the children. And I think oftentimes in our households it goes like that too. So I'm a little bit different. I was raised by a single dad, so that's why I have a more of a man's mentality, right? He was like, "Hey, I can't teach you how to be a girl. I can just teach you what I know," right? So the football, the exercise, and things of a male perspective, and when I think about what he taught me as a woman, I can't tell you if it would have been received the same as my mother had taught me. But I can tell you if I'd have stayed with my mother, I'd probably be a crackhead or somewhere.
Wow.
Two different people. And that's what makes the difference in households. Two different people, the caliber of parents that you have. Now, even though I was raised by a single dad who did not work because he had a heart attack when he was 24, he put a lot of time and investment. He used to get on my nerves. Oh, don't let people do this. I mean, every single little thing I did. But I also agree with what Navy said. That kind of responsibility, coming from what Leonard said also, I was taught that. Being a kid is just for a little while. You're going to grow up, and I'm preparing you to be an adult. That's what being a kid is about. It's not about playing games. It's not about running around all day. It's about preparing you to be an adult. So education, 12 years, maybe high school, maybe college, right? All of those things. Those were things that he instilled in me. So a childhood was nothing but, okay, when I get done with my responsibilities, I'm going to go out and play. Now, Paul made a very valid point in what I said earlier. Things are not explained to kids. You bark out orders. Sit down. Don't do that. Don't do this. Watch your brother. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch that. Watch this. I mean, like, bruh, you ain't telling nobody know why you're doing this. So when he explained to me, well, listen, if you want to do this, well, you're going to have to run around the block to make yourself strong. Well, listen, they said you got asthma. Do you want to be on medicine? No, Daddy, I don't want to be on medicine. Okay, well, that means we got to exercise. And he broke every single little down. So therefore, when I got older, even if I felt some things were wrong or unfair, I still understood them. But at this point, I can use this tool to fight against whatever it was. And when I got older now, I can conversate with my father because he wasn't my master. He wasn't my guardian just beating me to make me do stuff. He let me have a voice. Hey, Daddy, I don't want to do that, this, that, and the third. Okay, well, fine. And I think on some things, he just went in the corner and prayed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I really believe, again, that when it comes to us raising our children, it depends on the caliber of parent. It depends on the caliber of what they believe in. Because I know parents that raise their kids to be drug dealers. That's cool.
No.
I know parents who tell us women, if you got a thing between your legs, ain't no need in you being broke and having a wet thing and an empty pocketbook. So what are you telling me? And then when I grow up and I use my own mind to discover these worlds, the first thing you want to say is I didn't teach you that, but you didn't know that you did. So I think that is very important that when we're having this conversation on the responsibility of our children, we lose it when we having kids at 12 our own selves.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the history of Black people. We are here because our parents had kids young.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Who on here had old parents? Somebody on here got old parents? No, our parents was young. So they lost their own lives being fast, not listening. So then they came and had kids and they left degrees off of what their parents were teaching them because they didn't want to do that. Why? Because when they had kids, they were still kids. So they wanted to defy everything. So now by that time, we're coming grown with less responsibility and maturity that they got from their parents because they didn't want to do it because they had kids. Now we're kids doing the same exact cycle. And this is why we're caught up. We're still missing the point on how we are here earlier. Our culture is like this because so many of us are not high quality parents. We did not value parenthood. We did not do the right things, and frustration and hurt and pain interfere with us raising our children. And it goes back to what Rico said, the neglect, the hurt. I mean, you can say, oh, everybody wasn't hurt or neglected, but you don't know that. When you look at statistics, how many people are raped, how many people are prone to suicide, how many people are depressed, that allows you to know that, yes, some of these people, a large majority of these people are being abused. And the numbers say so because psychology just told you what creates at-risk people. So we can walk around in Wonderland all we want to and say, oh, yeah, me, my parents, my family, I understood everything. Yeah. But you need to have compassion for the people that did not have daddies like mine. And it's a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. It's not all is 100%. It's 87%. Majority rules. You're going to take that as all.
Good deal.
So until we reel this thing back in and start teaching our youth, we're going to continue to have the same cycle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I'm going to get the phone number. We got a few more minutes before we get out of here. Got a little more than 15 minutes. So 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Toussaint, what's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
I think that we have to admit that a lot of us are dysfunctional. And you can't start making that wrong right, and start from there. So when you talk about what should be and what shouldn't be in raising children, you start with the parents being actual parents that's functioning in the way that they should. Because if you start with, okay, I wasn't raised like that. I was raised in a dysfunctional, in some kind of way, household. And that's just the way I was taught. Well, suppose you was taught in the wrong way or in a dysfunction. You can't start with that. You got to start with something that's solid. And even though, we make it seem like a single parent home is dysfunctional. No, it's not. You can raise a child to fully function in an orderly fashion in a single parent home. You just have to do the things that's necessary. Okay, so it's nothing wrong with having friends and relationships, but you can't have different type of relationships in front of your kids. You just can't. That's dysfunctional. You can't have a rotating system, revolving door in your household and say that, okay, that's just the way that we do it here. That's dysfunctional. So, but at the end of the day, you're trying to raise a child to be responsible, to have the right kind of attitude in facing life. And so you don't want a child to be a child for the rest of their life. Life is not about playing. A childhood is a developmental stage of life. That you're heading somewhere. You're not staying somewhere. So you're not neglecting or you're taking away from a child in showing them responsibility and development. You taking them from one point to another, and there are stages in life that at a certain point, at 5 and 6, there's nothing wrong with having a little boy with a little lawnmower, readjusting it so he can mow the yard, rake the yard, do something, but not just sit in the house all day. A little girl, you're old enough to do something. Go sweep your room. Go make your bed. You're not taking away from their childhood. You're showing them ethics of life that they're going to need later on. If you neglect to do that, you're going to have a problem at 15. You might as well face the music.
Okay, but Tucson, isn't that a little different? Isn't that a little different than, and I understand what you're saying, and it makes good sense what you're saying, but isn't that a little different than thrusting the adult responsibility on them? Make sure that your brothers and sisters make sure they are take their baths and wash before they go to bed, brush their teeth, they're fed and different things like that. Make sure their homework is done. All those things. Isn't that a little different than maybe an idea of cutting the yard or sweeping?
No,
Wow.
I don't think so. I don't think so, Raheem, because at a certain point, Mama taught me this. Mama taught me how to wash my tail. Let me show you how to wash your tail. Mama showed me how to sweep the floor. Let me show you how to sweep the floor. You should have by this time, you should learn how to sweep the floor, so I won't have to sweep the floor all the time. You should know how to wash the dishes, so I wouldn't have to wash the dishes all the time. We had chain reactions in the house. We had a chain process in our household. Somebody washed the dishes, somebody rinsed the dishes, somebody dried the dishes, somebody put the dishes away. You had to do all of that. And our older brothers and sisters made sure we did that in the kitchen while they cleaned the rest of the house. Everybody had their assignment in the house. And it's not too much of a responsibility for the older kids. It's just, okay, I got some help in the house. Mama got some help. Daddy got some help. So the brothers and sisters formed the family to function.
Okay.
We were just functioning. That's just me.
Okay. Let me go to Cap. Cap.
That's what's on my heart right
here. There you go. Cap and Willa, coming to you next. Cap, what's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
Well, let me say this. When I listen to Dr. Leonard, to me, Dr. Leonard, you what we call an exception to the rule. This the way it is. I mean, you have been blessed to have a different kind of upbringing, and there's not too many people that has an upbringing like you, Dr. Leonard. So we tip our hat off to you, and we're not. And I think when you share that, I don't want. It does not put in my mind that that's the lifestyle of the majority that's coming out of the African American community. And even though we not want to talk about the African American community, Paul made a very good point. See, white people have a different way of how they train and raise their children. I see white people allow their children to talk and discuss to express themselves. While when we go to express ourselves, shut up. Try to be too daggone grown.
Yeah.
But white people allow their child to see mother, did it. See? Time out. So there's a different standard by which they, now when he talked about chores and he talked about punishment, that's a good point. You know, my mama didn't use chores as a means of punishment. It was what you had to do. How you gonna make chores a punishment when chores is a responsibility? We can't get confused with punishment is and discipline. I think we confuse punishment from discipline. To punish the child or to discipline, which one you want to do? You want to punish them. To punish them is to pay them for a wrong that they done. The discipline is to make sure they don't do no wrong. How many of our parents discipline our children? When we used to go to school, girls was taught home ec. They was taught home ec. They don't have that no more. And we got to understand, right, that, you know, we living in a society, man, that, you know, we have to change the culture. Everybody on here have a different persuasion of how they grew up. And can't nobody say, well, you wrong, you right. Ain't no wrong or right for this. The bottom line, man, we out of order. And the question is, how do we get back on? We can't use the old culture that was destroyed. Yes, we came over it with a culture, but our culture conflicted with white people's culture. Don't forget that, family. Our culture conflict with their culture. They was the masters, we was the slaves. They was the oppressors, we was the oppressed. So we adapted to their culture. And matter of fact, we took a little bit of their culture, so we had created a new kind of culture. Now the question is, are we satisfied with the culture we have, or do we have to create a new culture? Go down the community. Maybe y'all ain't been in the hood in a while. It ain't no Leave It to Beaver community no more. You go down in the hood, man, you see broken cars in the driveway, they barbecuing on the front lawn, men sitting on the doggone porch drinking beer, all them in white beaters, they smoking weed, you smell it loud. That's the average hood. I don't know if y'all in the hood lately. How can a child cut the grass when there ain't no grass? How can he be taught how to be a man when he's looking at a grown man in a wife beater? Huh? That's the reality. That's the reality. So we can talk about in the suburbs. We have become suburbanites now. We have now become what you call middle class Negroes.
Come on.
Okay. But what about the hood? Have you been in the hood in a while? Well, I don't want to be bothered with those type of things. Yeah, okay. They keep you behind and where you at. But you ain't got no comment about what the majority of our people going through. Because I don't know if you notice the homicide rate every day. We putting each other in the hospital. We dying. Okay? Put your head in the sand. Forget about that. Our women are being out there, man, and being children are missing. I don't know if you heard. Children are coming up missing. What about sex trafficking? Oh, that don't exist. So we have to talk about. Now I'm a nation of Islam, but man, I feel my people, man. I can't sit there. Well, that's where we are the nation. See, too bad, because we don't do that. No, because they step on my brother's toe in the south, I'm gonna holler in the north. That's the way it used to be with us. A plane crash. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If a plane crash, first thing you be saying, I wonder if black people was on it. If something happens, I wonder if black people. You know what I'm talking about. Don't act like y'all don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
you
sir.
think we have already suffered. We don't need to suffer no more. But we got to get it. I'm sorry, right here. I mean, you know, I go that way. But that's what's on my heart right here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me go to Willa and Ryan. Coming to you next, brother.
I was gonna tell you, pull Cap back in. Pull him back in. Pull him back in.
Hey, that's my brother there. That's my brother.
Pull him in. Oh, but anyway, he made some very good points, especially when he was talking about order. We're definitely out of order. I'm listening to what the question that you proposed to us. Do we steal our children's youth? Yeah, you know, and I was thinking about even when Leonard said what he said. See, there's always order, but like Cap said, we're out of order
because it takes a process to get to a certain point.
Mhm.
There's a certain point where we start. And if I'm a child, don't jump me from a child to an adult. Now I've missed out on what a child should look like, or how should I be as a child. So we're jumping. We're going through a hurdler. We're jumping over the steps,
Mhm.
and we're missing some steps.
Yeah.
So I understand what Tucson says about the child development, because that's all that was child development.
Mhm.
Try to teach your children how to become adults. But
Mhm.
they have another step before they become an adult. Don't leave me at home and I'm 13 trying to keep your children at babies, and I've missed a step.
Mhm.
So, and I do understand the sacrifices that we have to make in this society, in this world today, because we are out of order. There are so many things up underneath this umbrella that might cause us to not lay down, because you got to get up.
Yeah.
We can waddle in our situation, but I give honor to the parents and the mothers that sacrifices. You know what? I know my baby's only 13, but I got to do this because I've seen the way.
Mhm.
So that's how I look at that sometimes. It may not be all the time.
Yeah.
But sometimes I got to look at how strong their mother is to constantly call her, everything okay, all right? Because she's not so much worried, but she's concerned that I left a 13-year-old with my 6-month-old baby because I had to.
Mhm.
So we got to look at a lot of things, Raheem. We looking at, did we steal that young lady's or that young man's youth? Yes, we did. When we make adult choices to put on our children.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what you're asking. You're not
Mhm.
talking about the development,
Yeah.
because certainly we're supposed to train up our child,
Mhm.
develop our child
Absolutely.
to become an adult, but not make them an adult at
Mhm.
8 and 13, Raheem.
Absolutely.
And
Ab-
that's what's on my heart.
Good deal. Good deal. Ryan, good morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
A little tired, but I'm good. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. We're asking a question, and good to have you, man. We're asking a question about, are we robbing our children of their youth? When we have kids being workers, we have to go out there and have to go out there and make the money just to pay the bills and do different things. And so we leave the children, especially our oldest child, responsible. Leave certain responsibilities on them. Make sure they go to bed on time. Make sure they eat. Make sure they wash. Sure they brush their teeth, and all the homework is done. Adult responsibilities. And when we putting those adult responsibilities on our children because of the fact that we got to go to work, are we robbing our children of their youth?
I think that's a valid assessment. And that's how I grew up, right? My mother, she worked 2 shifts almost daily at the hospital. So I got left home with my sisters. I had to go to school, get them to school, get them up, get them ready, make sure they got home from school, had lunch, dinner, whatever ready, and do my homework and their homework, and still have time to do my sports.
Wow.
So that I can come home and pass out like I do now after a day's work. And you know, I think it was Cap was saying about passing along culture or picking up different things. And you know, these folks out here, I'm in the burbs now, and these folks out here look at me sideways because, like he said, these white folks out here let their kids express their emotions and do all of these things. And me, I grew up in predominantly black homes. I don't do all of that. You come out of line, I'm coming at you, you know, like that's just how I was raised. So
yeah,
that's how I raised my kids. And then these people out here looking at me like I'm crazy. You know, what do you mean you don't let them do this or that or the other thing? Like, what you mean you let your kids do that? What's wrong with you? You know, like, my kid talked to me like that, his head gonna spin like it's The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So it's definitely different, but you're right. That's a very valid assessment.
Good deal. Good deal. I'm looking at the clock. I have an appointment I have to be at 11, so I got to get out of here on time today. My wife, she sent me a message, said, make sure you're in on time. You know, you got an appointment. So I gotta do what I gotta do. But look here, anybody got anything real quickly that they like to say on this topic before we close it? Wow, nobody got anything. No, that's
well, positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement. I'm gonna stick that out there again, since this was about parenting and children and putting too much. You know, make sure you have a healthy balance, logical, reasonable balance, and do understand that there are steps to everything. You can create a chess master in the first day. You got to teach them the pieces to the game and how they move. And that's pretty much how life goes. It's a struggle out here. But in the process of you teaching these children these chores that are very much necessary, also make sure that you let them know that this is something positive. Don't make it seem like once again, a requirement or a punishment, but let them know that this is all a part about being grown and growing up.
And Paul said an interesting topic. I hope we can we come back to it again, and we will, you know, because you know, like Rico sang that song on where it came from today, but he sang that song. I believe the children are our future. That joker got on here trying to sing this morning. I don't know what the world is going on, but hey, he felt. Rico, what got into you, brother? What made you feel like you wanted to sing this morning, bro?
The spirit of Whitney. when Leonard said he was tired of his kids stuff, man, I like to jump through the sky, man. We ain't never tired of no kids. What you talking about, man? You see these statistics and this data out here? We can't forget about the kids. We can't be tired of them. That's what's wrong with them. People been too tired of them and ignoring them. You know what I'm saying? Now they need a little bit more focus and attention. A lot more.
Wow. Good deal. Well, we got to get out of here, man. I gotta go, man. And we're gonna revisit this conversation maybe 2 or 3 more times. Cap, I know you got something. Give me something real quick, Cap. What's on your heart? I feel you got something on your heart right now.
No, man, I love it, man. Listen, everybody, man. Thank y'all for allowing me to participate and give you my opinion. I hope I didn't say nothing that was offensive to nobody. If I did, please charge it to my mind and not my heart. Thank you, Raheem. Love everybody. And Sister Willa, yeah, they had to pull me out. You know they had to pull Cap, man. But that's what's on my heart, right?
Good deal. Now, Rico, what's going on today, brother, at 3 o'clock?
If you missed today's show, we would like to hear the rebroadcast in its entirety. Tune in at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on www.dkmmediagroup.com.
Good deal. Willa!
Raheem!
Willa, are you ready, Willa? Are you?
Raheem?
Yes.
I am so ready to receive God's word. Come on, Raheem. Let's go.
Well, Willa, you know I ain't got number one more thing to say. I just got one more thing to say, and that is, let's go.
Amen. Come on, y'all, go with me with a humble heart. Let's worship the Lord this morning. Father God in heaven, we thank you, Lord, for waking us up, bringing us together with a harmonious tone this morning, being on one accord, Lord. Father, we thank you for all the things that you've done in our life, Lord. Sometimes it seems like we're ungrateful, but Father, we are so grateful that we say thank you, Lord. Thank you for waking us up. Father, as we approach your throne of grace and mercy, Father, we want to say thank you for being a keeper and a comforter, a peacemaker. Father, help us to continually train our children to go in the right direction and the right way. Yes. Father, we know we're out of order, but Father, we know that you placed the path under our feet, giving us direction and guidance and wisdom and understanding. Father, we thank you for your word of instructions and leading us and telling us that we have not because we ask not. So, Father, we're praying today that you continually strengthen us in the directions that we should go, because we know that this world is evil and wicked. Yes. We thank you, Lord. We thank you for the Holy Spirit and the angels that you allow to protect us. Thank you, Lord, for the guidance. Thank you, Lord, for the direction. We thank you, Lord. Touch each and every last one on this line. Father, you said it. You said that you read the hearts of men. And I'm asking you, Lord, to read their hearts. Whatever it is that they're struggling with or going through, Lord, I'm asking, Lord, that you give them favor. Yes. You give them favor, Lord. Continually to give them grace and mercy, Lord. Thank you for Raheem and the Morning Glow. Thank you for his family, allowing them to give us his time. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, and amen. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. It's been a great broadcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us. It is now 10:07. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And more than that, I want to thank you for allowing DK, your media group and associates, and the Morning Glow for being a part of your morning. It is now 10:07. You're about to exit the Morning Glow. But before you go, I want you to do me two favors, if you will. One, I want you to continue to pray for us because we are certainly praying for each and every one of you. Number two, why this is real simple, I want you to go out there, find somebody and give them a hug because you never know. It could be the only hug that they get, or it could very well be their last. Love you, and ain't nothing you could do about it. Have a great day and a better tomorrow. That we shine some of this light in you for the Morning Glow. Take it out there into this wicked and cruel world that we live in and let your light so shine. If you get an opportunity, give somebody some love. You just might find some love in return. Won't that be a beautiful thing? Have a great day. Take care of each other. And please, please, please be blessed. Give somebody some love and truth. They would appreciate it. And I'm sure that you will as well. Talk to you tomorrow morning. God say the same. Be blessed. Love you.